Sneak peek. Greetings, you wonderful warriors of the broken sword. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Nick.
And we are the Gosslings, a digital speakeasy of free thinkers, Christian authors, explorers of the esoterica, and general buffoonery du jour auteurs.
Welcome to your buffoonery du jour.
Buffet.
Du week. I don't speak that.
Du week.
I don't speak that.
That's
Latin.
so French. Frenchest thing I've ever heard.
Glad everyone's here. Let's see who's in the chat. I know we got a few people watching. We got Jay Reese.
What's up, Jay?
And Mike Fisher's in the in the chat. Chris Caps is in the chat.
What's up, Mike? What's up, Chris?
Good to see you guys.
Kim Heath.
Kim.
Yeah, Lisa McLeod. What's up?
Hey, Lisa. Good to see you. Man, awesome. If you guys are, I know there's more people watching than what's in the chat. If you're lurking in the chat, sound off, say hi, tell us where you're from, where you're watching from. We'd love to see you in the chat. Super friendly group. If you've never seen any of our videos or been a part of the live chat before, the people in the chat, I can assure you, are super great. Super great.
I mean, obviously, J. Reese Bradley says that she saved a turtle today, despite hating the outdoors. So,
wow,
that's your good deed.
You're making
for the day.
steps. You're making steps.
That turtle will live forever. Never forget, Jay.
Dinto Bean, what's up? Good
Hey,
evening. Glad you're here. Let us, while you guys are doing that, shall we go through some obligatories?
Absolutely.
Let's begin. Let's begin with this. You guys have seen these before, the Kothon Spartan mug. These are beautiful pieces of handcrafted pottery art made by Joel Cherico and his team at ChericoPottery.com. Each one is handmade and hand painted by his team. These are the Kothons, replicas of what the Spartans drank out of, and he designed these in collaboration with our friend and favorite author, Stephen Pressfield, author of Gates of Fire and many other amazing works. But go over to ChericoPottery.com, check out the Kothon, get yourself one, drink like a man, drink like a Spartan.
Yes.
Get yourself a Kothon.
And when you are done wiping your heroic libation from your Leonidian beard, you can then take care of that manly pate of facial hair with Jardani Jovanovic. JardaniJovanovic.com. All your hair and skincare product needs, made by real men, for real men, or as I like to say, be as sexy as you are deadly. Give 007 a run for his money. Awaken your inner John Wick with JardaniJovanovic.com. You can see the products here behind me. Mike Fisher is the owner and proprietor of Jardani Jovanovic. He is a great friend of the channel, and we really, really enjoy his products. I pretty much shower every day just so I can use like the shampoo and conditioner, and I can both smell and look presentable to the greater world around me. Otherwise, Honey Badger would not be able to care.
That's great. That's great. And I've been using the beard balm oil, the beard oil, that he sent us,
and the F1 serum,
and yes, and the F1 serum, and it's actually gave it a little. I shaped it up a little bit today. It's starting to grow. You can kind of see it, guys. Can you see it a little bit? Look at that. It's coming in. It's coming in. I'm so excited.
Big red.
It's taking forever, guys. It's taking forever. But no, but I really enjoy the products. They smell great. I always get compliments on that as well. JardaniJovanovic.com. Yeah. And you know what? We forgot to do our toast.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we got to totally do that
and
now that we have a good group.
Yep.
We'll do that. Let's do the toast first.
Okay.
Let's do the toast first. I think I lead this time.
Yeah, I think
pretty sure.
Yeah.
So now that we have a good group, grab your Kothons if you have them, or your Goslings signature mug.
Grab that. I'll grab this.
All right. Well, yeah, there we go. I will start. You guys follow. Here we go. Take up the broken sword of your father
and strike down the darkness.
Cheers.
Amen.
And while you're at it, if you first time on the channel, take up the broken sword of your finger and strike down the subscribe button, and don't forget to punch the bell in the face. That way you know when we're doing a live video.
Yep, that's right.
Updated. Really appreciate that. And if you've already subscribed, hit the like button. That's something you can do to help us. Hit it right now. We're going to play the interview for you in just a minute. I'm going to let Jonathan talk about the interview we're about to watch.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump right in.
Well, I have to say it because of my OCD. Ring that bell.
Yeah.
Ring it like it owes you money. Keep your YouTube pen pan strong. Wayne Brady that bell. Is Wayne Brady going to have to choke a bell? Each algorithm, Dave. Each algorithm. I finally showed that skit, by the way, to Nick.
It's pretty
good.
Yeah,
it's
pretty good. Yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah, it was awesome. Okay, so here we go. We are going to air for you the interview that we conducted with David Thibodeau. David Thibodeau is the owner of the website wacosurvivors.com. His book is A Place Called Waco. He is one of a handful of survivors of the events at Waco. And we really, really enjoyed talking to David. He's a beautiful soul. I'll be honest with you. We talk a little bit about the events of Waco, but it's probably 30% of the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And there are a couple reasons for that. One, David gets justifiably and very reasonably so kind of burnt out talking about Waco. He does it a lot.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all anybody ever wants to talk to him about. And having been in that situation where I had to repeatedly relive my worst day with the death of my mom in conversations with well-meaning people, supportive people, it's
taxing.
It's very taxing. You are reliving the darkest moments of your life thus far.
Yeah.
And
David was there in the compound all 51 days of the siege.
Yes.
And there were hundreds of people that were in the compound. A lot of them gave up.
Yeah.
David was there to the very last day of the fire. He's one of only 8 people who survived the last day.
Yeah. And
you learn something after you go through something like that.
You do. It really, David's optimism and general good attitude towards life really put things into perspective for me. In a way, this is, again, one of the most Goslings interviews we could ever conduct, with the motto being strike down the darkness. You can find the information on, we didn't want to sensationalize this.
Yeah.
You can go and you can find other interviews where David goes into great detail about what happened. You can watch the Netflix documentary. You can watch his C-SPAN Books interview that they did back in, I want to say 2002, maybe. You can watch any number of homespun documentaries about Waco, or you can read Unintended Consequences by John Ross to really get the full scope of that. But we kind of wanted to do something a little different. We really wanted to get to know the man, David Thibodeau, and talk to him and what attracted him to the Branch Davidians, what he thought of David Koresh, and what his life was like and is like, and what he thinks about things. And it ended up being a very illuminating conversation. What really humbles me about David Thibodeau is he remains, he keeps his faith. He keeps his faith in God, his hope for humanity, and his patriotism for this country intact.
I would have lost at least 2 of those.
Right? Yeah. I mean, strong guy.
Yeah.
And fun.
Yeah.
He's funny. We talked about stand-up comedy. We talked about like 80s music, like he's just, his interests are like right in line with, we could talk for hours about that.
And Chris Capps said, awesome interview. Get ready, chat. Yeah, it's going to be great. We'll be in the chat with you while we play it. But they're right. It's, you nailed it again, Chris. It's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
It's you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mike Fisher asked me how my anniversary was. It was amazing. I'm actually going to give Mike a special shout out at the intermission and talk about that a little bit.
Nice.
Because I don't want to take too much time up before we play the first segment. Yeah. But in the intermission, I want to give Mike a big shout out and a thank you for his anniversary gift. It was really cool, and we'll talk about that.
We do need to talk about that at the end of the show, or at least the intermission, and maybe at the end of the show.
Yeah, we need to have a conversation. We haven't talked about it.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, like at all. Not
it's
even
on. Game on.
Yeah. Not even off camera. Like
not even. Yeah, we've been busy. It's been a busy week.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. That's it. Without further ado, here is our fascinating conversation with a fascinating man.
Yeah,
David Thibodeau. Hope you enjoy it.
A vertical punch.
Your YouTube feed is crap. Stop wasting your time watching bot-boosted shills and self-appointed gurus cloying for your attention. Instead, join the Goslings interview live stream and podcast. The Goslings, a dark-lit digital speakeasy of free thinkers. A super chat of radical truth-seeking wizards who eat trolls for second breakfast. Topics that'll make your mama's hair stand on end. Ideas that'll make your pastor's knees knock. Guests that will illuminate the hidden chambers of your mind. And interviews that strike down the darkness. Welcome to the Goslings.
David Thibodeau, survivor of Waco, musician, author of A Place Called Waco. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. We just spent half an hour talking about a bunch of things in the Patreon, and I kind of want to roll back, start at the beginning, and just sort of ask you, David, what your background is and what drew you to the Branch Davidians.
Okay, well, I was, I grew up in Bangor, Maine. I found drumming when I was a kid, 13 or so. As soon as I picked up drumsticks, I knew what I wanted to do. So after I graduated from high school, I saved up, went out to LA, and went to Musicians Institute out there and studied, drumming there. I played every day. I was already pretty good, to be honest with you. I needed to get to Los Angeles. To me, that was like the Mecca, right? Yeah. And so I showed up at the end of the 80s. So as usual, I always show up late to the party and everyone's already passed out, and that's great. The cops are showing up and I have to go out the back door. That's kind of how I view. I was like just 3 or 4 years too late, right? So,
yep.
So I went there. I did that, and I was working meaningless jobs, playing in bands, making no money, but doing what I love. It was still fun. Yeah. And then I just one day I was sitting at the I worked at the Man's Chinese Theater, which is where all the stars have their handprints and footprints.
Yeah.
Great place to see a movie. So I got a job there in the gift shop, and I was wearing a stupid red smock, and all day tourists would come in and would buy trinkets, from me. And one day I was sitting there and I looked up to this guy. I said, "God, would you please introduce me to the people I'm meant to meet?" Now, in retrospect, be careful what you ask of the Almighty. Yeah. Instead of saying, "Can you introduce me to my Led Zeppelin or the band that I said the people I'm meant to meet." And I didn't think about that till much later. So about a day or two later, I go into the Guitar Center, and there was a whole story behind that. And I went to buy a pair of drumsticks. I was late for rehearsal. I go into the electronics room because the D drums have just come out, which were amazing. They're these electronic drums that were like little pads.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember these.
It had like a mesh thing, and they felt great. It felt like a real drum set, only electronic. So I was playing those, and well, I wasn't playing. I walked in, and these two guys were looking at them. They said, "Oh, you're a drummer." Drumsticks in my hand. I said, "Did you play this kit first? We'd like to hear it." So I went around the kit real quick, and I was pretty good. So,
what'd you play? Do you remember?
No, I just did fills.
Oh, okay.
Some double stroke rolls, that kind of thing, triplets. I was just riffing.
Nice.
And the one guy says, "Wow, hey, you're pretty good. Hey, you're pretty good. Hey." He goes, "I've been all over the world with this guy here. This is David. My name's Steve, and we're looking for a drummer." And he hands me his card. Here's the funny thing. I found some cards recently. Of course, I don't have it right here. Anyway, that figures. He handed me a card, and the card said, "Messiah Productions, Cyrus something," and it had David Koresh and Steve Schneider's name and phone number on the card, and on the back it had all this religious scripture. What I didn't know at the time is the religious scripture revolved around the kingdom to be set up, and it's every place where the Old Testament talks about the kingdom to be set up. There'll be Mount Zion will be raised above all other mountain ranges. There'll be walls of fire, and the people of God will go there. When I'm just paraphrasing here, but when the wave sheath go and gather the 144,000, they will come to Mount Zion. They will learn something and then go out and gather the great multitude which no man could number. So these are all things to be fulfilled. They're not just in Revelation either. It's in Isaiah. It's in Daniel, Ezekiel. Many of the prophets talk about this event. And that's what was interesting about David. Now, remember, this is before the internet. Now, right, I can go to Google or whatever and put in every place the Bible talks about the Holy Spirit, and everything's going to come up.
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't do that back then.
Mm-mm.
That's what David was. David was the Bible, the Google Bible.
Wow.
Like David could literally say, well, if you want to know about the Holy Spirit, it talks about here, go to this scripture, go to that scripture, and you'd be there like, oh my God, how do you know that? So I wasn't impressed with the card at the time.
Yeah.
I saw the religious scripture. I handed the card back. I said, oh, you guys Christian? I'm not interesting. Crappiest bands back then in the 80s were Christian bands. I'm sorry.
You're not a big fan of Striper? All right, fair enough.
They were okay, but some of the others not.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Like the Cartman scene in South Park.
Token, you can play bass. Just go. Just
yeah. It's the crappiest music of all time.
Dude, that
I
episode.
took the word love and put in the word Jesus.
It's one of the greatest episodes. Our dad was in Southern gospel music his whole life, and so like we're not musicians at all, but we saw a little bit of that world looking at that South Park episode where Cartman starts a Christian band is one of the greatest episodes, and it's so accurate. And I knew the guitarist. I worked with the guitarist who they based the Christian metal band off of.
Oh yeah,
dude, yeah, and he was like, dude, it's 100% how it was back then. Yeah, so yeah, fair point, Dave. Fair point.
Those guys are kind of like they're like naughty prophets.
Yeah, that's right. They're naughty prophets.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, you weren't too interested in the scripture thing at first because you didn't want to be associated with like lame,
Christian bands back in the 80s. Yeah.
But something about it, I left and I just kept thinking about those guys, and I gave them a call. I just wanted to do more, and they seen like, here's this guy. I don't know if he was a good guitarist or not, and people say, David Koresh is so charismatic. No, I didn't think he was charismatic. The wisdom that he had, the understanding of scripture he had was an attraction. But like I tell people, I played with lead singers that had more charisma than David Koresh. I played in bands with people that were far more charismatic than David Koresh. And guess what? Once you have to tour with them or play with them or you drive to gigs with them, after a couple months, the charisma wears off. Oh, yeah. And it's just like, I want to choke you to death. You go through that thing with people that you got to live with. You have to learn to live with each other and put the music first. That's not an easy thing to do. So there was nothing special about David, except for what was special to me about David was Steve Schneider. The fact that this guy had his own manager and such a good talker and someone, I was impressed with the fact that Steve believed in this guy. And so maybe there was something there. And I ended up calling and we ended up jamming. It was okay. It wasn't great. Pretty good though. Yeah, pretty good. And it just went from there. Steve started to give me some studies. I found it interesting. I knew that I wanted to know more. I was always curious. And the more studies I got, kind of the deeper into it came. And I started to see things. And I'm like, well, I don't really get that Psalms 45 is the key to doesn't make a lot of sense to me yet. But then as I started getting to some of the other Psalms, I started to see a plan that was going to occur to a people at the latter days. And it's interesting because the Psalms started to become this group of people. Well, it took time, right? Yeah. You can't talk about like what people know about David and about his message now. You could jump in and say, well, he believed this, he believed that. And it's going to sound absolutely insane because it is. It sounds crazy. But once you're studying scripture and unraveling it in time, and it takes time, you start to become more and more convicted with it, right? Yeah. And it came to the point where I was shown so much that I believed that this guy had a message that was divine. And how do you walk away from that? People say, why didn't you leave during the siege when they were CS gassing you? Or even before that, when they were playing the loud musics of rabbit being slaughtered, the loud sounds and the light show at night. Why did you stay there? Why did you come out? Well, where are you going to come out to? I'm following the path of what I believe to be God. Where the hell am I going to go? Yeah. I'm going to go out to the forces that are fighting against the message of God. How's that going to go for me or anyone else? And that's what the government, the FBI didn't understand. They didn't get the faith And even if you see some of these FBI guys, these hard, staunch FBI negotiators and stuff, and like Jeffrey Jamar won't do interviews anymore, but some of the like even Byron Sage said, really underestimated their faith. You know, he's actually in a recent interview right before Byron Sage died. He's dead now. He was the chief FBI negotiator. And right before his death, he did an interview, and he basically said thoroughly underestimated their faith. He was actually kind of in awe of the faith of the people in Mount Carmel. Yeah. And I got in trouble for this. Not in trouble, but I said in the Netflix documentary that the people that died in Mount Carmel were martyrs. They literally died for their faith. And I had people on Reddit saying, Thibodeau had me, one of the quotes is, Thibodeau had me up into the point he called these people martyrs. Right? That's the ignorance of the populace. Yeah. Because they were martyrs. They and not martyrs as in strap a bomb on and go. And that's what the word martyr has become, unfortunately. And that's that's why I'm still learning.
That's funny. My mind went to like, maybe they didn't think they were martyrs because, you know, the old martyrs in the Bible all martyred themselves for Jesus, you know, so, but I didn't even think about the Islamic.
Most Christians will go to the Fox Books of Martyrs, right? And think of the stories of the people that died for their faith in Christianity over the course of the last several decades, centuries. So yeah, I had to realize that. But the true, and this generation doesn't care about what a word means. But if you look up the word martyr, it's someone who dies for their faith.
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, someone who dies for their faith is a martyr. Yeah. Okay. And many of those people, all of those people that died, they died for their faith. They were not going to give up their faith to a force that was coming in and gassing them.
Yeah.
That is so incredibly awesome. And it's something that should be honored and respected. And the fact that they're just made out to be a bunch of religious fanatics that killed themselves it still to this day drives me crazy. It's just so wrong.
I'll be honest with you, Dave. I don't mean this in a flippant way at all. I truly mean this. We should all be so lucky. Honestly, you know, we should all be so lucky to have the opportunity to put our life where our belief is and be able to be remembered as someone who was a martyr. You know, I mean, that's what every Christian, you know, thinks about. I mean, I think I even wrote it in that article yesterday about like how so many Christians probably, you know, sit on the toilet taking a dump in the morning, fantasizing about being a martyr at some point. And like,
yeah, but then, you know, what you see over the past 3 years is that Christians' faith were so weak. They weren't dying for their faith.
No, they weren't even going
they were
to
walking
church
away.
For their faith.
They were walking away. Oh,
yeah.
You know what? Oh, I got to stay at home
and
now.
Zoom
so I won't
my
even bother.
Church service, you know?
And they never even believed to begin with, turns out.
Yeah.
It's like, it was never really valuable to me.
I think that's one of
40% of churchgoers who left church during that period of time didn't go back.
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I really admire so much about you guys is there were people who were willing to stick it out to the real end.
So they actually believed.
Because they actually believed. Yeah. I mean, that's powerful, David. Truly. You know? So anyways, I'm sorry.
Well,
continue.
No, I appreciate that very much. And that's the point that I try to make at every memorial, right? Because all right, let's get real here for a little bit.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with my experience is it's so negative. And the problem that I have with scripture and with faith is that if not used properly, it can take you to some very negative places, right?
Yeah.
And I think to be the best human you can be, you have to try to keep it positive. You have to try to continue to do good works, try to do positive things. And if you read some of the Old Testament stuff, that's kind of hard because God's, you know, a stickler for just about everything. And there's like nothing we can do right. And we're just a bunch of scumbags. And it's, you know, sin, when you take sin and you amplify it to a certain place, especially the way like someone like David could, right? It's hard to break out of the guilt, right? And the fear here does a lot of negative things to. So as I get older and grow and learn more, I'm trying to look at a way to integrate faith with being more positive and going out and being the best person that I can be, so I can influence people the best people they can be. And I fall short greatly all the time. But over the years, especially as I get older, it's become a conscious thing for me, right? I was very, very negative all the time ask any of my ex-girlfriends, ex-wife, trust me. I mean, I'm single for a reason.
Same.
Recently, a couple years, I started to get some serious therapy, but what that means is mostly reading. I just read a lot, books on trauma, books on any kind of disorders that the mind has. Well, here's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of going around the circle again. But I learned to wake up and upon waking up and upon going to bed, to count my blessings and to think about it helped me through my hard times, and to thank whoever, the creator, for them being. I thank my best friend, my best friend's wife, my best friend's sisters. I thank people that have reached out to me because of Waco. I thank God for them. I thank God for people that have reached out to me who are depressed and want to kill themselves. And then have told me, I saw what you went through. I saw your series, and I realized if that guy can do it, I can do it. And there's guys like that I still talk to. They call me when they're down, and I try to cheer them up the best I can.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. Okay. I consider that person a great blessing, that I am in the position where I can try to help them, or at least they can see what I went through and maybe think that they can make it another couple of days or whatever. That's a phenomenal thing, man. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So in learning to do that, upon waking and upon going to bed, the counting the blessing thing, it's made a huge difference in my outlook. And that's where the positivity thing is just really hard for me to try to stay positive. But it's having it working, and things were coming to me in a way that I could never have imagined. That's one thing that David said. He said, and it was after a very long study, but every once in a while he would just say something that was just so mind-blowing. And he said, y'all don't realize that every day there's angels that are carving out your path for you. They're out there carving out your path, and they're trying to give you signposts of which way you should go, what road you should go down. And sometimes you just choose to go the wrong road.
Yeah.
But if you really stop and look, you can see the path they're carving out for you. Fascinating thing.
That's so true. I look back on the moments where I took the wrong path, and I knew, I mean, you feel in your bones that just, whether it's the Holy Spirit or your overworked, underpaid guardian angel, or or just your own thought processes, you're like, man, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm gonna do this. And then you pay for it somehow, or if God is merciful, you get bailed out of it. But yeah. Is that so you kind of answered one of my questions already, but I did want to ask you, what was David Koresh like?
He's just like, he was a kind of a good old boy, he was a Southern boy. That's it. I mean, he didn't use big words. Like, he wasn't like, if you were just talking to him, he could carry on a conversation. It was interesting, right? But not like overwhelmingly interesting. But if you allowed him to open the scripture up and give you a study, then he became someone else. He was a completely different person that all of a sudden had wisdom and didn't use big words, but he used big concepts, right?
Oh, cool.
One of the things that was fascinating to me about David is how he could plant a seed, and then through time you could watch that seed grow. Be it there's someone in the group that's doing the wrong thing, and Dave's like, you need to go out in the world for a while. I don't want to, you need to go do. And he would send people, and 3 or 4 months later they come back and say, oh, I see what you meant. I learned my lesson. Can I come back? Yes, that kind of thing.
Wow. How long were you there at Mount Carmel?
A year. I was only there a year. I knew them for 2 years, but I was solidly at Mount Carmel for the year before everything happened.
Okay.
So, there was a lot of other times that I saw him plant seeds and then come to fruition. It's fascinating stuff. But it was the studies. I mean, there would be times where he would give you the same study, the group, and it would seem like this is all stuff we've learned before. This is all stuff we know. And that would go on for a week or two. And we'd go like, oh my God, there's nothing. And then he'd come down and he'd start a study. He goes, okay, I was shown something. Here we go. And he would go into another aspect of the message, or maybe deeper into the fifth seal, which frankly the fifth seal was so complicated. Not many people outside of like Wayne Martin or Steve could really comprehend it. And so he incorporated in that fifth seal a scripture that said you have to come back to the banks of the water and you have to hold on to the roots while the flood's coming in. And you have to hold on for dear life until it dissipates, because you have to go back to your foundation and start over because it becomes too complicated. Now, that's when you're speaking of Ezekiel, right? And you're speaking of the four-headed beast. He would get into the symbolism of all of that in a way that would just absolutely blow your mind. And I'll tell you a story. This is an interesting story. And this explains a lot of why I don't give Bible studies. People hate this. I mean, there's a lot of the survivors that give Bible studies every Sunday. Everyone's like, give me a study, dude. There's so many people that are in. Kevin Jones created a Facebook group called the Branch Davidian, the Branch Davidian Survivors Group or something like that. And a lot of people join that, and most of the survivors are on there, and some of the like Livingston Fagan gives studies. I think Derek Lovelock's giving studies, and Clive did while he was alive. He just died last year. Okay. I don't. And I can't explain exactly why, but it's just a weird thing with me. I don't feel inspired to do so. But what David could do, and I'm going to illustrate this in a story. David Koresh was on a plane with Steve Schneider. This is a story that Steve Schneider told me. And he said as they were on the plane, they were just going from land over water, and you could see like the tectonic plates right under the shallow water. And David went into a thing with Steve about how God created. And when he used his word, the tectonic plates, and he would explain scientifically how they would come into be from the power of the universe, using its word, saying its word. And Dave said to Steve, and Steve just told me the story. He said, David told me that I won't be able to repeat the words that I used with him. And he said, I'm not telling you can't, Steve. This is inspiration gave you this experience. This is just for you. You won't be to tell this story to anyone. And Steve said he tried to tell Greg and some of the guys exactly how. And he's like, all I know is that tectonic plates. And kind of sounded crazy, right? I've seen that with David many times in studies. You hear information that is just so phenomenal and deep and out of this world. Then you're like, you try to repeat it to someone. Like I called my friend John up after studying about the priests and how the priests had 12 jewel robe, right? They have a 12 jewel, and literally you were asking God directly a question, and a light for yes and a light for no would come up, right? If you were pure, and you could ask God directly, and through the priest, God spoke through this jewel system thing. And I'm telling my friend about it. He goes, Dave, sounds like you're in a cult, dude. It's just, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I can't explain it the way I heard it. It was phenomenal. And
yeah.
Anyway, that same guy finally got to study with Dave, and it blew his mind. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's just more to that. There's more to who the guy was, and it's I don't know, man. He did. I have to, I listen to everything, and I listen to people that claim they were victimized by him, and I'm not going to call anyone a liar. I think that David did some unscrupulous things to some people, and I think that some people. Well, it's like I said recently. I wish that David were alive to have had to face his peers and stand trial. But instead, the whole place burned to the ground. Everyone's killed. Yeah. I wish they would have gotten him. And I wish they would have made him stand trial for whatever crimes he allegedly committed or committed.
Yeah.
But he was.
Why were they coming after him?
That's the question, I mean, they say it was for the firearms violations, but when you read the affidavit and all that, it's stuff about child abuse and him having many wives and many children, all things that have nothing to do with the ATF. So obviously, this is what's used in the negative campaign and the demonization campaign against the group to get people to be able to justify what the ATF did and then what the FBI did.
Yeah.
So listen, no one here is I won't say mistakes were made on both sides. Crimes were committed on both sides. I can see that now clearer than I could then, being within the group. Sure. But David Koresh did not gas the children.
Yeah.
David Koresh did not drive tanks through the front door and make huge holes in the building that was an oxygen flow system.
Yep.
David Koresh did not have helicopters shooting at the building. He did not order 75 armed men to come and shoot at the FBI or the ATF. Okay. The ATF, the government, the FBI, they were the aggressors at every single stand of this thing. At every single point were the FBI and the ATF the aggressors.
Yeah.
Period. The people in the building defended themselves, but never did they go out to hurt anyone or shoot anyone or kill anyone. That's, you can look at it any way you want. The bottom line is they were the aggressors at every single point.
And remind me again, where were you during all of that timeline? I'm trying to remember. Did you leave before all of that happened? Were you there and then got out towards the end? Like, where is your story in all of that?
Yeah, I'm one of the 9 fire survivors. Yeah. About 18 people came out during the siege, mostly kids, some older ladies, and some of the younger guys too. Only 9 survived on the went through the gassing and all that. And I'm one of the 9.
Yeah.
I came out of the side of the building where the cameras could still see us from pretty far away, a couple miles. But we came out. The people that came out where I did, we're in a hallway, and the hallway was between the gymnasium area and the chapel area. And so, the chapel area early on was destroyed. They cut off passageways, and they took out staircases. When the tank started coming through the building, it demolished it, ripped it apart. We have aerial footage of the gymnasium area, which is the back of the building. That was a complete media blackout back there. Mm-hmm. But we have tanks going in, and it just destroyed, just knocked it to the ground, right? The whole section. There's when you see the video of the infrared, there's 2 large explosions, 2 flashes in a window that is crushed on the ground, right? Where the dog run was at the gymnasium area that was destroyed. And they're so bright, man. They're like, I don't know if they're flashbangs or explosions of some kind, but it's very nefarious. You see that and you wonder what that is. And then, on the infrared, there's also the fully automatic weapons fire, which the government says is not. They say it's sunlight reflection. Any expert would tell you can't get sunlight reflection on the FLIR video, which is a heat technology.
Right.
So, but again, there's still controversy about the infrared to take it serious. No filmmaker will touch it after the rules of engagement. Waco, the rules of engagement was the only documentary to put that in there and make it, serious. No one will touch it. Netflix, the new documentary, he wouldn't touch it at all. He didn't talk about the CS gas. He didn't talk about the infrared tape. He didn't talk about the front door missing, the one that, had all the bullet holes in it. He didn't talk about Peter Gent and the controversy about, the water tower. There's so many things that were left out of the documentary. It just absolutely blows my mind. It's they don't want the truth. It's the listen. It's 2 or 3 corporations control all media in this nation. When I say all media, every newspaper, every TV show, every cable show, every Netflix, anything you see or hear, they're controlled by 2 or 3 corporations. Are they really going to go against the federal government of the United States of America? No. They may pretend to. They may say, "Oh, we've done this journalism. We know journalist integrity. We found this about the FBI." But when it comes to something like people exiting the back of the building and being shot down, mum's the word, man. And even agencies that I believed in one time, like the Cato Institute, are saying basically that's sunlight reflection.
Really?
So I disagree.
That's disappointing.
It is.
Yeah, I'm with you that, like, I was a fan of the Cato Institute. A nice libertarian think tank, if memory serves. And
They didn't look at like as you said, infrared renderings of the film.
No, well, there's another. The FLIR project was something that was done in response to the government's FLIR recreation that they did. And if you watch the FLIR project, it's on my website, wacosurvivors.com. Waco Survivors, there's a spot there with a FLIR project. You can see it for yourself. But they point by point go through what the government said about the FLIR tape and show you how that it's not true scientifically. So, listen, here's where I'm torn on it. I understand why they do it.
Yeah.
As a survivor, it makes me angry. It makes me angry for several reasons. I mean, many children that I love died. Many good people that I love died and were killed. Obviously, that's always going to be a thing, and it's probably people are going to say that's what's going to skew my judgment, and I understand that. But the truth of the matter is, the truth is the truth. Yeah. You can hide it. If you believe like I do, it's going to come out in the wash. No one's going to. And I tell ATF and FBI guys that are getting older, getting on in their days, I say, come forward, man. Just someone shot people at the back of the building. Who was the shooter? Are you one of the shooters? You don't got much time.
Yeah.
It's running out, man.
Yeah.
You're going to go to meet your maker with that on your conscience.
Yeah.
Come forward, man. Spill it. Just do it. Just do it. You'll feel, lighten your burden, man. Lighten your soul. And that's my plea to them is to come forward and do that and say something about it.
Yeah, I really, I was telling Nick about it. I really kind of am hoping that Lonnie Horiguchi comes out at some point, before, because that's one of those guys, who's not getting any younger. And, he was at Ruby Ridge, and then supposedly he was at Waco as well.
He shot Vicky Weaver in the face.
Yeah.
Holding her baby.
Yeah. And we were talking about it a little bit beforehand. I wanted to ask you, how did Ruby Ridge affect what happened at Waco, or how did it inform, maybe is a better way of putting it, both for you guys and obviously for the government, who, pulled the most ironic thing in the world trying to save face and then made a situation 10 times worse.
Dave and Steve, we were all shocked about what was happening at Ruby Ridge while it was going on.
Yeah.
And, we could see, listen, that kid with his dog, they shot the dog, kid shot at the marshal. What do you expect?
Yeah.
You come in and shoot people's dogs, you're going to get shot at, man. That's the first thing the ATF, we didn't talk about this. The first thing the ATF did, they had a group of trained soldiers that came in and killed the dogs. Yeah. They shot our dogs first thing.
Yep.
I read one of these books recently, and the book is saying I talked to the ATF agent who was in charge of the fire extinguisher to go after the dogs. And I'm like, you piece of crap. How are you going to put 30-year-old propaganda into a book that you're claiming is the final word on Waco? They all claim that, by the way.
Of course.
It's always the final
So
word.
it's like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you cite what Ambush at Waco said 30 years ago? I mean, while the siege was going on, they were making that piece of crap film.
Yeah.
That showed the agent going after the dogs with a fire extinguisher when they killed the dogs first thing. The person that wrote Ambush at Waco has apologized to all the survivors, saying he didn't realize what he was writing and that it was wrong. And he has his own work and disavowed his own work and apologized for the survivors for writing that piece of crap. Yeah, it's complete propaganda. It's exactly what you do when you're the military and you go and you take over a country. First thing you do is you make a documentary supporting why you're there to play for the populace, so you will get some people that will sympathize and be there with you. It's, the Nazis had it down. I mean, you don't think we learned from them? Are you kidding? We took all their greatest scientists and brought them over here.
Yeah. Sure.
Damn right you learned from the Nazis. We learned from people of intellect that do terrible things.
Oh, we played both ends of that game with, letting the Marxists come over, I mean, if there's anybody who was equally as good at it as the fatherland, it was the
motherland.
The motherland. Yeah, when it came to propaganda. Yeah, we've been fed both sides of it ever since. On one hand, you have the fascist, relationship of major corporations, such as the ones that control the media, being in bed with government. And then because, during 3 years ago, you couldn't go to church and you couldn't go to the mom and pop shop, but you for sure could go to Home Depot and Walmart, you know?
Mhm.
So, how does that make any sense? I mean,
Yeah, people went out of business while the big corporations made even more money.
Yeah,
Listen, capitalism is failing.
unfortunately.
Well, it just is. We got to figure this out, man. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not okay. Here's what I love about the Scandinavian countries, and I know people, especially people, are going to yell, "Oh, socialism!" Listen, there's humanitarianism. I think the Christ was a socialist. Sorry, I know that's going to upset a lot of people, but it was all about what feeding the multitude, the great multitude, feeding people, doing for others. Right? We don't like the Scandinavian countries do this. They have it down. They realize that it's like, okay, they don't have any homeless. They have social programs to help. They're drug addicts. They don't have drug addiction because they legalize it and they put it in a safe place. And they try to give people education and they give people clean needles. You don't have to, psychological. You have someone that they take care of their own. They look at their society as being humanistic first. We look at our society as being profit-based first, greed first, and how much money am I making first?
That is the problem.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
So, you can call it whatever ism you want to call it. It's just the right thing. I see my fellow countrymen walking around living in tents on the side of the street.
Mhm.
I don't care if they're drug addicts or if they have mental issues. They have issues, man. We need to be taking care of them and not criminalizing them. How long have we put pot smokers in jail?
Right.
Holy crap. It's pot, guys. It was here since the beginning of time. You don't think the Israelis were high? Let me just say that.
Right. Yeah.
I study a lot of I get like the biblical archaeology magazines and stuff like that. High priests, they found this recently. They have these in the altars. They found traces of THC on in the altar, so they were mixing pot in with other herbs when they were doing their whatever, when they were having their sacrifices and stuff. So marijuana was used back in the ancient days of Israel. Sorry, I hate to break your bubble. It's proven. So what's my point? Quit criminalizing people that have issues and try to help. That's what we do. If we would just put the other person first, people have issues. Not everyone was raised properly. Some people had parents that were neglectful. Some people were beaten. Some people were starved. Some people were sexually abused. People have issues that affect their behavior that are beyond you. That's why judge not, least thou be judged. You should never look at someone on the street and say, "Oh, what a scumbag." You should look at that person and say, "What the hell brought him to be there?"
Yeah. That's a much harder question to ask yourself, because then you might have to take responsibility.
And frankly, that's why, not to shake my finger, but that's why a lot of people don't like what people call religious people, because there's a lot of religious people that point the finger and look down on others. I've had many people in my life look down at me because of my experience or whatever. It's like, you don't even know. Have you read my book? Shut up. You have no idea what I have gone through. You have no idea. And listen, I'm not doing this I'm not, I don't want sympathy from anyone, but they don't know what I've been through and they don't know how it affected me. And there's, reasons that I haven't maybe moved forward in life the way I should have, or lived up to my potential, if you will. And I know that. But they just don't know what it's like to live with the speakers and the deaths and reading the autopsy reports and reading that there's a 10 or so, 15 or so autopsy reports that show that people were killed with bullet wounds in the center of their head and the center of their chest.
Whoa.
When you get together with friends, understand Waco or survivors, and we're at a dinner table and we're talking about autopsies and we're talking about how some of the kids, when the CS gas burned off, created cyanide and it bowled their bones backwards. These are the conversations that I have with the people that have gone through it. And we're sitting at a table in a restaurant having these conversations. And I start to look around, I see other families, and I'm just like, "Ooh, okay, we better maybe talk a little lower."
Yeah.
Nobody can understand that conversation. I wouldn't want people to have that conversation within their own families. I say about Waco all the time. I wouldn't give up my experience for all the money in the world, and I also would not wish it on my worst enemy.
Sure.
I'm glad it happened to me. Glad's kind of a strange word, I know, but if it was going to happen to anyone, I'm glad that I could take in that burden, if you will. That's not the right way to say it. But I said it. Yeah, just I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but at the same time, it was something that's just very precious and special. I'm still, very good friends with most of the survivors. Heather Jones, Kevin Jones, the Joneses. I'm very close with those kids, and they've gone through hell, man, their whole lives. Heather Jones told me in Mount Carmel, she was raised with, we had many, many black people there. We had people from Hawaii. Scott Snoby what was he, Samoan. We had Filipinos. We had just all kinds of different races that were at Mount Carmel. Heather told me that when she went, after she left and was growing up in the system, she had friends of all colors. She didn't see any, there was no racism in Mount Carmel. We're all people of light. That's the way we looked at it. Then she went out into the world and she was going to school, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, whatever grade she was in. And she would go over and talk to the black kids. And the white kids would come over and say, no, you don't mix with them. You mix your own mixes with your own. You stay over here. And so she didn't even learn about racism until she got out into the system.
Yeah.
The system of Waco, the system of our way of thinking of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when she found out what racism was. Now think about that for a minute. Mount Carmel taught everyone was equal and special, and you go out in the system and all of a sudden you can't mix with the black kids?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that? I mean, we're supposed to be the most progressive humanitarian country on the face of the earth, right? I mean, that's what most Americans think of themselves, right? But the truth is that's not the foreign policy of this country. And that's not what's being taught. I mean, it's kind of good where we're at now. I mean, people understand history more so than they used to. I mean, you watch YouTube. I mean, there's so many different videos about slavery, where slavery comes from, racism. I mean, we have more access to information now than ever before. And I think that the person that knows how to look for it can reach a level of understanding that we've never been able to reach in the history of mankind. That's a very special thing. The problem is we have people on both sides yelling the loudest, and many people get caught into that. And much of that, especially the radicalism, ends with violence. Right? I had a friend that was with the Proud Boys, and he came out of that, and he was like, they wanted me to hurt people, and I just couldn't do that. And so he became, so I've been talking to him and working with him about that. And it's like, that's not what any movement should be about. It should be about making lives better for all of us. And that's, if that's Martin Luther King marching down the street while they have the hoses on you, well, that is incredibly brave. They're sticking the dogs on you. I mean, the civil rights movement in this country is so awesome and impressive to me that he could take the passive resistance thing that Gandhi was doing and inspire people to go through that hell and be hit, be handcuffed, thrown in jail, killed in some cases. I mean, it's really quite awesome, and we should all try to come up with that scenario for all of us, save ourselves from the oppressors. There's a thing I heard recently. If you take, and I'm not sure if it's true, but I thought it was a really good meme, so I'll repeat it here and hope that it's true. That if you take a jar full of red ants and put a bunch of black ants in there, they'll be fine until you shake the jar, and then they'll start killing each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the moral of that story is we have to figure out who's shaking the jar. Don't be mad at someone because they're black or because they're with Black Lives Matter, or don't be mad at someone who's with the other side, or whatever name you want to put on it. Who's the I almost said it. Who's the jerk that's shaking the jar? You gotta get the jar shaker. That's the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice save, Dave.
That's great. Yeah, good save. Do you think
I told you guys were going to try not to swear very
you did great? No, that was fantastic. That was really good. I mean, do you really think when you look at the news and you look at our country and you look at the way just in the past few years have the deepening of the division, Do you really think there's hope for this country? Do
There's
you
always
really
hope.
think?
You know, I say there's always hope because I lost complete hope at around 10:30 in the morning of April 19th. And at 10:30 in the morning, I still, in my naivete, thought that the FBI would see that we weren't coming out despite how much we were going to be gassed. And that they would back up and let David Koresh run manuscript, let him finish it. He'd already finished the first seal. They said it was alive, but we have the first seal survived, came out of the fire on a floppy disk. And I thought that that's what would happen, that we would back off and he'd be able to finish it. And then at 10:30, there was a news report and it said the Branch Davidian compound, and I'm quoting what they would say, is being attacked by the FBI. Not attacked, but they said, they have Janet Reno's approved a gas plan. Of course, she didn't say a tear gas plan, not a CS gas plan, tear gas plan, and it's being gassed right now. And they're hoping that people will come out, and they're saying the siege is over. Now, the FBI have claimed that they've received 80 to 200 gunshots against their CEVs, which are tanks. And the credit of the FBI, they have not fired back at the Davidians. I was in that building all morning. Nobody shot at the tanks. I did not hear, and a gunshot is loud. You hear it across the room, even with the tanks coming through the building. Nobody was shooting at those tanks. I'm sorry, they just weren't. And so when they made that public and I heard that lie over the radio, I knew that it was over. That's not, and I can't explain what losing hope feels like.
Yeah.
But it's the most deflating thing you could possibly imagine.
That's a good word for it.
Deflating. You still have hope. Hope is like, it's special. It's, anything can happen. God can, or whatever, can save me out. It's my intellect, even whatever. Once you know you're going to die and there's not a damn thing you can do about it, it's completely, it's deflative. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So the fact that I survived blows I did not expect it. I thought I was a goner then. So I know what it's like to know I'm going to die and survive it. Can't describe that to you guys.
Do you think that's kind of given you a freedom? Do you think you've kind of almost had like a near-death experience and kind of that's given you some sort of liberty in life?
Well, it's been a dual edge, if you will, because there's that part of you that is like, you have this survivor's guilt. Your friends died and you survived it. Now, what do I do with my life?
Right.
And then you look back at 54 and say, well, I certainly haven't lived up to what my potential was. And a lot of that is because of the trauma that I suffered and went through. If you're going to be real, let's be real. Yeah. And, there's so much more that I wanted to do. There's so much more that every day I wake up thinking I'm going to do, and then it doesn't get done. It's like, oh my God, I can't even overcome myself. I can't even overcome my weight. No matter how I've tried everything, man. I'm a big guy. I just can't. It's frustrating, when you pray every day for strength and every day you don't get it, or you sabotage yourself the way, I do. I'm not fat because of Waco. I know everyone thinks that. I don't give a crap. I was fat before Waco. I was a big kid. I always been a big kid. The only time I ever lost weight was the Mount Carmel 51-day diet plan. I call it 2 MREs and 2 ladles of water every day. While that got me down to 150 pounds. I've never been that light before or since. Yeah. So I don't know what I'm trying to say here. What was your question?
This is about hope. Do you really think there's any hope?
Yeah. I do think there's hope.
By the way, I have all the same problems that you do, Dave, except I don't have an excuse. So, solidarity, brother. Cut yourself some slack a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you were in that moment, you heard that report, and all your hope drained, and you knew what was going to happen. But now you're on the other side of everything, and you're seeing the political climate and the direction of the country. But your hope's not being depleted. You feel like there's still time to turn around before all the fire and chaos.
Well, I think a lot of that depends on climate change. I mean, things are going to heat up no matter what, because it is. There's many listen. When I look at it like that big, it's impossible. I do have hope. Because, I explain this. I drive every day, and I see people do incredibly stupid things all the time. What worries me now, the fact that it's the TikTok age. People don't even listen to songs anymore. They get verse, chorus, and they're done. They move on. I can't imagine how void my life would be if I didn't listen to an entire Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin album all the way through. Right?
Yeah.
And now kids today are listening to verse, chorus, and they're moving on. They have a 20-second, 30-second attention span, and it's all over. This is not good.
No.
This is not going to lead to anything good at all, man. And well, that terrifies me as much as anything that's happening politically. But I just know that we have to do better, count our blessings, and try to help our fellow man. I don't know why it seems so hard to do.
Yeah.
Many people in my life do this, you see it in small levels, and that's where you have to see it within your community. But how do you make that a law?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
That's the interesting thing that you were talking about earlier with, the Norwegian countries, and how they take care of all their people, in such healthy ways. And it is government mandated, but you're doing something that I think is better, David. Honestly, when I listened to you, and I didn't know this about you until you started talking about it in this interview, when you talk to your friends, when you talk people off the ledge, when they're having a bad day and you're calling them and you're talking to them and you're helping these people in their individual lives. It's not the government doing it by fiat. It's not the government doing it with your tax dollars that you don't get a say in. It's you, a human being, a son of God, out there doing the things that God would want you to do to help the people around you. That's impressive stuff, man. I mean, we've often been called like a ministry or a church, and we always like deflect and like we're not a ministry. Like, don't get too excited about us, But when I listen to you talk about what you're doing, that kind of is like what I would edge on the title of a ministry, man. I mean, you're taking care of people,
It's not enough. And it's not enough, and I'm not good at organizing.
Well, I mean, if you go to the New Testament and you read the book of Acts, it's the church. It's the church that's supposed to be doing these things.
Right.
It's the people of God that are supposed to be doing these things. It's not supposed to be the government.
Yeah.
And these are people of God, by the way, who weren't self-governed.
Yeah.
Right? They were under the thumb of the Romans.
And they didn't have 501c3 status that they were desperately trying to protect.
Yeah, and they didn't have expensive buildings they were trying to keep funded either.
Yeah.
But they were
that whole mega church thing, dude, is
it's a little rough, right?
Don't even get me started on the mega church.
Crazy.
But it's the church is supposed to be the ones not even picking up the slack, leading the charge in helping the people who are homeless, the fatherless, the widow,
the addicted,
the people who are addicted.
Yes.
It's supposed to be the church doing that.
Yeah.
And they're not. And our culture is feeling that.
Yeah.
And they're right to blame the church for not doing it.
Oh, absolutely. It's our fault. We,
And now they're if the church is going to do it, maybe the government will. Oh, they're going to do a great job.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll do a bang up job.
Yeah. What is it? The 8 or 9 most frightening words. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the thing that is admirable, and it almost seems like you doing what you do with just taking care of the people around you and caring about the people that you see, whether they're a stranger or a friend. That is what the church should be doing, and taking personal responsibility for what's around you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. What do you think so far?
Isn't David awesome?
Yeah. If you like what you're seeing, just want to let you know, on our Patreon, we had a 30-minute Patreon exclusive interview with David.
Yep.
And we try to do that for all of our guests, where we get to ask them things that we can't talk about on YouTube because it will get us channel strikes.
Yep.
Um, so if you are interested in that, then you can go to our Patreon. It is patreon.com/the Goslings. That's 2 S's in Goslings, boys. Take the highway to the danger zone and go to the Goslings Patreon.
And, I've been watching the chat, and it sounds like a lot of you guys are really enjoying the interview.
Yeah.
And if you would show us that by just hitting the like button, if you do like the interview, hit the like button. Tell the algorithm that this is a great interview.
Yeah.
That way we can get it to more people, and we can get David's message out there to more people. So we really appreciate that. I really liked David's a cool guy, and we were talking about this before the intermission while the interview was playing. And we have the second part coming up here in a second, but we were talking about how what I love about David is his humility, and his deep compassion for other people that has kind of grown as a result of coming out of this awful experience 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But Jonathan and I talk about the perils of what do you call it? Pathological compassion.
Yeah, that Jordan Peterson concept of the Oedipal mother and pathological neurotic compassion.
Yeah, this is not that.
No, it's a very responsible, personal, communal compassion. And I've been in that situation with friends. I've had friends who I was the only person left in their group who would talk to them.
Yeah.
And they'd call me at 1:00 in the morning.
Yep.
And I've been that guy. I mean, chances are at some point on the carousel of life, you're going to be the broken pony.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Buckle up, Buttercup, because life sucks. So.
I'm putting the QR code up there to the Patreon if you do want to go over there and just check it out. We've got multiple levels of support. You can sign up at most of those levels and get the exclusive content and see the exclusive interview that we had with David before we recorded the public segment.
Yeah.
Real quick, Mike Fisher of Jardani Jovanovich, who is our man Mike. So real quick little inside story, little inside track to the comments earlier. He said happy anniversary and asked how my anniversary was. So my wife and I just celebrated our 21st anniversary, which was fantastic. We had a great time. Thank you. And
you're now old. Your marriage is old enough to drink.
It is. My marriage is
and
an
buy
adult.
Tobacco products and purchase a handgun.
That's right. Our
what a wild night they
didn't
didn't have. Homeschool nerds went to this little weirdo town.
We did.
Tennessee.
We did a great little day trip, and we went to this little town out in Tennessee called Rugby. It's a lot of really weird, interesting history there. Anyway, I won't bore you guys with that. We had a great time. But Mike found out from Jonathan that my anniversary was coming up. And Mike Fisher bought me and my wife tickets to go see Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
And go see Sound of Freedom we did.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of things to say about that.
You want to wait until after the interview?
Yeah, I think you saw it too, right?
I did. And
we haven't talked about it.
No, we haven't. And real shout out to Mike Fisher. He did this on his own out of the goodness of his heart.
Absolutely.
And
I was shocked when I got the email.
Yeah. And he called me like a day or two beforehand, and he was like, "Hey, I want to buy tickets. I just got out of the Sound of Freedom and saw it. It's great. I want to buy tickets for Nick and his wife for their anniversary." And so he was like, tell me, what city, what's the zip code, so I was on the phone with him, kind of helping him through all this stuff. And then he did it. But he purchased tickets for dates when you guys weren't going to be able to see the movie.
Right.
And so he ended up figuring out a way. I think whatever he went through, whether it was angelstudios.com or whatever it is, he was able to get a couple of extra tickets that he could then accommodate your guys' schedule.
He did. Yeah, he did. It was
night.
very, very kind of him.
And the beautiful thing was those original tickets were still left over. So I got to go see it Saturday or Friday night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mike was very, very generous.
So thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it. Dude, awesome. Thank you. It was a great gift. On behalf of my wife and on behalf of myself, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a great movie. We enjoyed it. And we're going to talk about it after at the tail end of the show tonight. We'll talk about Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
If any of you guys in the chat have seen the movie as well, I would like to get your thoughts on it when we have that conversation later on.
Yeah.
And let's see, we got Lynn Etheridge also
Hey,
joining us in
Lynn.
the chat. She just popped in. Hey, Lynn, good to see you again. No Baloney Mahoney has been in the chat. Gabe Bellows been in the chat.
Gabe, what's up, Gabe?
Yeah, we got D. Awesome. Wild Bill Nye joined us. Kira OC joined us while we were playing the interview as well. So glad all you guys are here tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Timar MS7.
Oh, I missed that one.
Timar Emma.
Let's see here.
I'm probably mispronouncing that.
American Cars. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
American Cars is here. What's up, buddy?
Yeah.
American Cars.
Tamar Ama7. Yes, thank you.
Big thanks to American Cars, by the way. He got me set up with a copy of Russ Disdar's book that Vicky and I have been talking about. Yeah, about
SRA.
about the Satanic Super Soldiers.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Which is super hard to find.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you can't find this book anywhere. The only website I could find it was like a Swedish, like rare books library thing, and they wouldn't ship out. They wouldn't ship outside of Europe.
Wow.
You can't find it anywhere. Yeah.
You should have them ship it to Adam. And then have Adam ship it to you.
Adam ship.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, maybe we can work that out.
You know, one thing I really appreciate about David Thibodeau in this first segment was when he was talking about like just the little kindnesses you can do to people. Yeah, that is something
Huge.
You can do. You can absolutely do it. You can go through the drive-thru. You can pay $10 for a quarter pounder, combo, and you can just offer it to somebody who looks like they're on the side of the road or they're hungry or something like that.
Yep.
A lot of people just want cash so they can buy drugs. We've offered to buy food for people before, and they've said no, they just want money. But so don't do that, unless you feel led to, like, whatever. But honestly, like the little things he's talking about, donating your clothes to people, not necessarily organizations, but actual people.
Yeah.
You can do it, know, and you don't have to sit there and have a 3-hour conversation with them. You can. I did. Like, David inspired me to actually do it.
It was a great story you were telling me.
Yeah, and it's totally doable, but obviously not everybody has 3 hours to sit there and talk to some guy who's down on his luck outside of a Walmart at 11 o'clock at night, but you at the very least probably have the ability to just go through the drive-thru and pick up some food for somebody and just give it to them.
And maybe it's your neighbor.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the little old lady that lives alone next door.
Yeah.
That you haven't connected with in a while.
Yeah.
And maybe she's not a believer.
Yeah.
Go grab some grub.
Yeah.
Take it over and just say, I was thinking about you.
Yeah. Or just like when you're out
Let's
getting...
have a drink together. Have coffee together or tea or whatever.
Yeah. A soda.
Yeah. A soda. Can I come in and have a soda with you?
You could put a 6-pack of soda in here.
Yeah.
I mean...
Brothers don't shake, man. Brothers gotta
a great way to get to know your neighbor. In case you guys are struggling with that, you're severe, raging introverts like me. If you have a neighbor that you want to get to know, you haven't yet. Just wait, just watch, peek out your blinds like a creep, and watch for them to come outside to let their dog out.
Or to check their mail.
Or check their mail and go to the bathroom. But specifically with the dog, wait till they bring their dog out.
Yeah.
And then come outside your house and walk across the street and say, hey, I saw you had a dog. I love dogs. I just wanted to meet you,
Funny.
And just strike up a conversation. It's that easy.
Yeah, it's that
People who have dogs love people who love dogs.
That's true.
Yeah.
And dogs are like, I think they're almost like better than babies in a way. In a sad way, maybe, but like, dude, like dogs bring people together.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks dogs are cool.
All right.
And or like when you're going to check your mail, just wave and like introduce yourself to your neighbor. Like, dude, no one knows their neighbor anymore.
Yeah.
Get to know your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yep. It's okay. Like, they're probably not a crazy person.
They're not.
Maybe you're the crazy person.
I for sure am the weirdo on my block.
I mean, obviously, you're creeping through the blinds all the time. So.
I am. I'm like, is he out there? Is he out there?
Is he out there? He's so cool. I want to talk to him.
I'm like looking for excuses. Oh, man. Mike says, I would buy dog food for homeless people I would see outside stores for their dogs they would have with them. That's smart. Yeah, I do see a lot of homeless people with companions, with pets.
Yeah.
That's awesome because, everyone's thinking about the person. They might give them some money. They might give them some water or some food or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the dog, that's a great way to not just help that person, but you can connect over the dog and get to know them.
Yeah.
And it, get into that conversation that might lead, who knows, what seeds could be planted,
Yeah.
as a minister of the gospel, as we all are.
Yeah.
Who knows what could happen.
And to make people just not feel alone.
Yeah.
Dude, isolation kills.
Yeah.
That's what does it.
Yeah.
Your tethers to life are what, keep you from checking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For sure. For sure.
And on that note, David Thibodeau, part 2.
Yeah, part 2. Here we go. I just want to give a quick shout out. Kathy Marcella's in the chat.
Hey, Kathy.
She says cats too. Kathy, I love you. Disagree about cats. I'm not a cat guy, but you know what? You're right. But you are right. They're pets, dogs, cats, whatever. You're right. Just connect over. We love our babies, says Kathy. Okay. All right. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you're Nick, then parakeet.
Pets are just babies you can buy off the shelf
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Is that too harsh?
Nope. And you don't have to pay for their college.
And you don't have to pay for the college. That's right. And you don't technically have to wipe their bottoms usually.
No, and you also don't have to, depending on the pet, have to endure them for the next 18 years.
That's true.
But they also won't be
they have
with you.
They have limited shelf life.
They have limited shelf life. And
horrible.
and they do come with a receipt. You could drop them off. Flip side to that is, they're not going to be holding your hand telling you they love you when you're in hospice.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
give and take, as with anything in life.
Yeah. When you pass away and you leave all of your family photos to your bird, you do not want to know what the bird is going to do with those family photos. A quick shout out to Lynn, by the way.
What's up, Lynn? I'm sorry. Gabe says our stream deck isn't running right. It's not piped through.
Yeah, it's not piped
all
through. I'm
jacked up, so
sorry,
I'm just
but-
going to do it anyways.
Yeah, it's about as loud as we can get
myself.
it. We had a software that crapped out on us. We're trying to look for an alternative. But Lynn, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. She says,
oh, it's an emoji. It's
Is
a
it?
yeah. It's like a cute little dancing pear thing.
so this is how your emoji comes up, through Restream, which is, I believe, a Ukrainian company.
yeah, no,
Go
go
Ukraine-
ahead and
go
read it, and
Ukraine.
I'll show it to you. Go ahead and So it's pear character dancing under a rain of confetti and taking his hat off to say, "You are amazing."
So Lynn said you are amazing and gave us a super chat.
Thanks, Lynn.
For that, we thank you.
Yeah,
And,
that's really sweet of you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's basically AI telling us against our wishes,
you.
what this emoji is. This dancing emoji.
Pretty
But
cute.
That was really sweet. Thank
It
you.
looks like me when I work out.
A dancing pear.
Yeah, it's got the headband on, except I'm not that happy. That's very motivational.
Yeah, nobody smiles when they're dancing around, working out.
Or working out.
Yeah.
It's all just.
All right.
I'd rather be pooping.
Let's go. Oh, wait. Nope. Can't go yet. Got to give a shout out to Mike Fisher.
Oh,
Mike,
Fisher,
thank
nice.
you. Super chat from Mike. Thank you. He says, Goss Bros, you're doing awesome. Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
buddy.
Really appreciate that. Thank you for the support.
Very sweet of you, man.
Yes, sir. Awesome.
We don't
And,
deserve you guys, but we'll take you.
dude, right. I hope you guys are here at the end so we
Yeah.
can talk about Sound of Freedom.
Yes.
Man, great movie.
Yeah, we all need to talk about that at the end.
Yep.
And but in the meantime, enjoy our excellent conversation with one of the coolest and most inspiring and sweetest hearted people we have had the pleasure and honor of talking to, David Thibodeau.
Here we go.
Part 2. Karate chop.
My friends did a documentary.
Yeah.
My friends did a documentary. Were involved in a documentary on homelessness here in Maine.
Oh, really? What's it
Yeah.
called? Is it out yet?
It is. It was an MP. It was a public broadcasting thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't remember. It was last year. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
No, it's okay. I was just going to promote it if I could. So
Thanks,
You know.
but I'm an idiot. So
just stick with me for 10 minutes, David. I'll get you beat on that one. You know.
fascinating story though with it that I thought was incredible is that they were talking to this homeless guy, and they said, "Oh, thanks for talking to us about this. We have a gift card here for Shaw's. You go get $50 worth of groceries." And he said, "Oh, thanks." And he went over to another homeless person who needed it more than him and gave them the card.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
And yeah, so what she said, what that person who I knew who worked on it was like, the more people that she talked to that had nothing were the ones that gave the most.
Yep.
And gave to their communities and went out and looked for things for other people. Blew my mind. When you think about that, as you think about all the things that most people have, like, even if you're working 2 jobs, you're just barely getting by. I get that. Still have more than them.
Yeah.
Still could stop at the grocery store and get some health bars, right? And hand those out. We could still take a shirt that doesn't fit us anymore, a jacket that doesn't fit us anymore, and stop and give it to someone on the side of the road.
Yeah.
We could still stop at McDonald's, get an extra meal, find someone on the side of the road and give it to them. There's still little things we can do, even though money is really tight right now. We still have something. Think of that person that's got nothing that is still gets a gift like that and gives it to someone else. Incredible.
Yeah.
I love this. This is such awesome stuff because these are little things that people in the middle class and lower middle class, all of us working stiffs can do throughout our day. And it's because it's not overwhelming and it doesn't feel like you're just like throwing, your pearls to swine. Like sometimes you feel like you give something to Goodwill or the Red Cross or something. You're like, it's probably just going to wind up in a bin somewhere. But what you're talking about, like buying an extra meal at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A and just like finding somebody on the side of the road and handing it to them.
Yeah.
That's something anybody can do.
Box of granola bars, have them in your car.
Yeah.
You see someone out there, hand them a granola bar.
I love it.
That's a great idea, man.
Yeah, it really is.
That's a great idea.
I got that from the documentary. I can't remember the name.
That's cool.
Do you think that like your approach with your helping so many people that are in your lives just by being there for them, do you think that is kind of what gives you the hope that you have for the nation in general?
Yeah. It makes my life have a little bit of meaning because I often don't think that sounds crazy to people when I say this, but I also think there's so much more I could have done. I feel like that scene in Schindler's List. What about this watch? What about this ring? How many lives could I have saved with this ring? How many lives could I save with this watch? Yeah. And it's just like, talk about not living up to your potential. I mean, there's so much more. And anyway.
No, we're all guilty of that.
It's hard. That's what's hard with me, given a second chance and not being the best I can for God.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is no being the best. It's just getting up every day and making a decision.
Do you remember the New Testament when Jesus is given the parable about the talents, the 3 different servants? He gives them each a talent, and he goes away. And one guy multiplies it by 10, the other multiplies it by 5, and the other guy doesn't multiply at all. He just buries it.
Yeah.
The one who didn't do anything is the only one that
gets punished for it, right?
Yeah, he comes back and he's not considered a wise and faithful servant. The others did the best that they could with what they had. One guy did way more than the other,
but the second guy did something.
Yeah, the second guy still did something and got an equal reward for it. It's the guy who just buried it and didn't do anything with it.
That's the interesting part. An equal reward, no matter whether you
you just do what you can with what you got.
Well, frankly, that's one of the things that I hate about capitalism. I hate about people look down on others, and I see it all the time. I see it with professionals all the time. Not everyone's at your level. Not everyone's the smartest guy in the room. And you can't just take their jobs away and expect that they're going to just go to an Ivy League college and become lawyers. If we're taking all the jobs away from people that their capacity is to flip a burger or whatever, shame on us. I go into Walmart and I see those stupid self-help things. It's like you can't even get a person to get your groceries.
Oh, thank you.
I hate self-checkout.
One person that's working on, like, they're taking your job. This is outrageous. And everyone's they're just going about their lives, just going to self-checkout.
I know, no one thinks about it or they like it.
And it's like, dude, people that need jobs can't get them now because it's all about the technology.
That's it. And that's
what's the answer? They have to come up with a universal monetary system where everyone gets paid a certain amount. That you can't just take people's jobs away and expect it's not going to go on, man.
That's what AI is going to do. That's
This
what AI is going to do.
The corporations are going to go down for this shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
The corporations are going to
How
go
dare
down.
you.
They have to.
How dare you pull that shit on my channel, David?
This is not sustainable. This kind of arrogance and greed is not sustainable, man.
It's not sustainable as it is now. And then
it's
we're
not
going
what
to
we're
throw.
supposed
And
to
then
be either. We're supposed to be better.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, this is America. We're supposed to. We're supposed to be the hope to the world instead of the friggin' bully of the world.
Right.
That's because we're this discontent country full of people that are just lustful after the next technology.
Yeah. The next bauble.
And we're just ready to absolutely yes, AI everything.
Mm-hmm.
Digital technology, just throw as much out of it as you can. Make my life as easy and thoughtless as possible so I don't have to raise a finger. Well, guess what? Now you don't have a job.
Dude, it's so bad. About a month and a half ago, I went into one of the banks that I have just like some low-level checking and savings accounts with. And I like to take out, a certain amount of money, like maybe once a month, and transfer it to another bank account where I pay my bills out of, and pay off my credit card debt and all that stuff. So I go into this bank like I have several times in the past, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to make a withdrawal of, this amount. And I'm in the bank, and the guy looks at me and he goes, oh yeah, you can just use the drive-through self-service ATM, or we got a little kiosk right over there that you can use. And I'm like, do you realize what you're doing? Like, you are lazying yourself right out of a job. Like, I came in here, I know I could have gone through the drive-through thing if I wanted to. Obviously, I parked and got out of my truck, and now am in here because I like to have a human experience.
You've been probably banking with them longer than that guy's had a job there.
I think at this
You're probably
point,
like, I think I know the options, guy.
Right, I know the options, pal. That's why I'm here, dingus. But like some people, like that's how you talk about like the dumbing down of the country. It's almost like some of these people kind of deserve it because like they're willing to march right into the fires practically.
There's no stopping it.
And that's the hard part. That's kind of maddening.
Yeah, what's that word I'm trying to think of when you just give in, you just let it, just
capitulate
like your sheep. Yeah, you're just whatever.
Yeah, complacency.
Complacency. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely complacent.
Concede.
Yeah, bend the knee, bend over, just drop and take it. So one of the sorry, yeah. Sorry, Dave. Now I'm the bad one.
KY.
There's that 80s Kiefer Sutherland energy I was talking about earlier.
You will have nothing and you'll like it.
That's right. Yeah. Eat your bugs,
So
what? We should do the what we're thinking about. You want to do the Patreon question?
Yeah, let's do the Patreon question.
Yeah. American Cars, one of our Patreon members asked a really good question. I want to make sure we have enough time for you to answer it. He says, David, I watched the Netflix documentary. How is it that they got away with firing the first shot as well as the survivors never winning any compensation in a court of law? What a terrible situation. I feel for you truly, but I don't think I would ever stop suing them until I could buy my own island and fade into obscurity. I watched the documentary right after reading Unintended Consequences by John Ross and was flabbergasted by how out of control government is. Thanks and God bless.
I appreciate that. We're never going to get any justice for this thing. Like I said, no one will even touch the infrared video. It's just how it is. The system protects itself over all things. I mean, that's one thing I've definitely learned. And, there's plenty of attorneys out there that understand legalese far more than I do. And you could take little minute points and blow them up and make it so, any judge won't want anything to do with it. We did have a civil case. The judge that we had in the criminal case, Walter Smith, who was a complete farce. I mean, he wanted to get a judgment against us no matter what. And if you look into what the Supreme Court had to say, they called his ruling one of the worst malfeasance of justice they'd ever seen, and basically overturned people were in jail for 10, 15 years before it ever got to the Supreme Court. So no one was supposed to go to jail. I mean, under the trials in San Antonio that happened, everyone was found innocent of conspiracy to commit murder. They were found, some of them were found guilty of a lesser charge, aiding and abetting voluntary manslaughter, but it was thrown out with a gun charge. They couldn't prove a gun charge, so it was thrown out. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember the exact details. But everything was thrown out, and everyone thought the survivors were going home. And then once the jury went home, the judge made a new ruling and gave him 40 years on this weapon violation that the jury had thrown out. He added it back in, and then they had to go to jail. So it wasn't until it got to the Supreme Court that they found out, how bad Walter Smith was, and that his ruling was crazy. And everyone got out. But that was the same judge who was protecting the government and getting a guilty verdict, which is all he wanted, no matter what, at any cost. He wouldn't allow expert witnesses to testify, all that crap. That's the same guy that was the judge over our civil case. So the fix is in, man. It's frustrating. I would love to be on an island somewhere and not have to worry about money anymore. I mean, I won't even tell you what I do now. It's very humbling. I like it though, so whatever. But let's just say I'm barely getting by. That's fine. I don't care. The point is, I'm never going to get justice in this thing. It's too big. Too many people died. They can't admit guilt at all.
No,
right?
And they never will.
They never will.
Never going to happen. If this is a God situation, this is where I hope that God is real. Yeah, I've never believed that someone who was in the mafia was going to just be able to say 100,000 Hail Marys and get away with killing people. I never believed that the government is going to get away with gassing and killing the kids in Mount Carmel. It's all going to come out in the wash, man. I just really, and there's times I doubt God completely. There's times that my faith is, I just don't believe it at all. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's an up and down thing with me. But then I see signs of God in my life in ways that I can't even comprehend. There's something there, man. There's something behind the scenes, and there's a record. There's a record of our deeds. I don't want to see my life played back. I mean, God, it's terrible. Really, but there's a record, and they're not going to get away with it. They may get away with it in this lifetime. But the soul is an energy. It's a thing. It goes on to another dimension. The universe is too big for it not to, man. Do you think we just disappear and never to exist again? What's that seems so ridiculous.
Yeah.
The fact we die is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we kill each other.
Yeah. To make it even dumber. I totally understand what you're talking about. You're so not alone on that, of just, struggling with your faith and questioning every day up and down, is any of this real? Like, what am I doing, with my time? And am I feeding into something? But then you have these moments, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, whenever God decides to show up, where you're like, there you are, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough manna in the wilderness to get me to the next, the next pit stop, the next oasis. It's just enough gas. And but I feel you, man. You're not alone on that at all. Were there, this is like the only thing I've never been able to figure out with what happened. Were any of the rumors about David Koresh true? Because they smear his name so much.
He had some underage brides. Yes.
Yeah,
that's what you meant. Yeah, most of them. See, there's a reason. I've been talking to the scholars about this too. Recently, someone is accused. Someone mentioned that Karen Doyle was 12 when she was with David. She was actually 14. Legally in Texas, 14 with parental consent, right? Sure. The testimonies that I have the problem with, and I don't even like to mention her name because she's moved on with life. Sure. So I'm not gonna. Let's just say there was an individual out there who ended up with the father and wasn't there, and claimed that, and this is part of testimony, that she was molested by David at the age of 10. So that's something that is very disturbing to me, and I'm not going to not believe her. So I'm coming to believe her. I know that Michelle was 14 when she had Serenity, which means that she conceived at 13. So obviously, that's underage. I mean, like I said, he took advantage of things he shouldn't have. And when I say that I wish that he would have been alive to stand trial for his crimes, it's those.
Yeah.
What I can say is I knew Michelle. Michelle was happy with her life. She had beautiful children, twins, and then she had Serenity with David. Her family was there. Her father was there. Her mother was there. Her sister was there. Other sisters had left and hate the community, hate David and all that. I understand that. I get that. That's fine.
Sure.
But that was their life, and she had a right to it. And to use her age to just what they did and having the hand in killing her seems very wrong to me.
Yeah.
I wish that she would have been able to become of age and realize what happened to her and then speak out again about David herself when she was old enough. But I knew her. When I knew her, she was 17, but she had more wisdom and acted more mature than most people. I was 23. She acted more mature than people I knew at my age, certainly. And she acted way more mature than any women that I knew at my age living in Hollywood. She was
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Like when I met Michelle, it's like, oh my God, this person, she's a woman. She's smart.
Yeah.
She's humble. She just seemed like I thought she was my age. I did not know for a second that she was 17, and it wouldn't occur to me. It wouldn't have bothered me. I'm not the Snoopy type. I wasn't like, so how old are you? So I didn't care. She was a great person. The community was filled with great people.
Yeah.
So at the time, that didn't bother me. What bothered me is later started when I did research for the book, and I learned how old she really was. That bothered me. Then I put it in the book, and it was hard. It was really hard to wrap my head around it, and it still is to this day. But it's that perception that people are going to have no matter what. There's nothing I can do about that. All I can do is try to explain and be honest with people about what happened there, and that's what sucks. You can be honest, and you're still going to get a certain amount of people that are going to hate you no matter what for even being there, for the lack of judgment, however they want to say it. Right? They weren't there. But they will believe a government who lies to them every day about everything. And they will take their word as being true. And, oh, my God, how could you have gone against our government? It's like, do you know who our fucking government is? Do you know what they do to people all the time? They destroy families. If they get your number, even if they're in the wrong, they'll kill you, man. They'll go in and they don't give a crap. The jackal, they'll send the jackals out for you.
Yeah.
So, but people believe them over people that are telling them the truth. What can you do with that, dude?
Yeah.
That might be the end of the republic right there. There's nothing I can do about that. I've wrote my book. I've told my truth. If you don't like it,
right. Sayonara.
What can I do? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's it. It sucks.
Well, and tell me about it. It's so hard because you don't want to dance around an issue, but at the same time, if you don't address the issue, whatever that issue is, then it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario. I don't want to ask about that, but I know that for the sake of the interview, if we don't ask about, if were any of those rumors true, then it's like, people will throw the whole interview out, because you didn't, address it, and then there are other people who will like only look at one thing, one aspect of one person, and they'll throw everything out because of that one thing.
Yeah.
And you can't control the mob. All you can do is try to tell the truth and be honest, That's really
because people are lazy. People are lazy, and they only want to. It needs to be black and it needs to be white.
Yeah.
And if there's white and there's one blemish, they're throwing the whole thing out.
Yeah.
It's got to be totally good, righteous good guys against totally evil bad guys. And there can be no nuance.
Yeah.
And I think social media has done that largely to people.
Absolutely.
I think it's enabled people to be lazy in their thinking
Yeah.
and in their judgments.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then the governments and corporations feed into those social media.
Oh, they're driving it.
Yeah.
They love it. That's how they divide us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that I just again, and I just want to say this again. I wish that anyone who victim can stand with their accuser and be able to tell their story and have the accuser be punished for what they've done to hurt that person. But
Yeah.
that's what our system's supposed to be. But the truth of the matter is the system protects itself and it protects the government, and they're getting away with far bigger and greater crimes. Like, think about it. Think about Waco. Okay, so David Koresh is having children with girls underage. So we're going to attack them. We're going to shoot at them. We're going to kill their dogs. We're going to start playing loud music of sounds of Nancy Sinatra and rabbits being slaughtered, and we're going to keep them up. We're going to take these people that we are saying are crazy, and we're going to try to drive them crazier, because that makes a lot of sense. And then we're going to expel and do our bidding, and they don't because of their faith or whatever. So then we're going to go and gas them, and we're going to drive a tank through where all the kids are, and we're going to make sure we put enough gas into that concrete structure that the kids choke to death, and that's okay because David Koresh is a bad person.
Right.
Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, it's like maybe David Koresh was a terrible person. And again, I wish that he would have been able to stand trial.
Yeah.
And all of it would have come out in a court of law. And that his accusers could look at him directly and he would have to realize why he is in jail, right?
Yeah.
That didn't happen. So that's that. Here we are. And I just don't want people to lose the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, I don't like talking about Waco anymore. After this 30-year memorial thing, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
But then there's the books, and the books are so negative. I could only get through one of them. I could get half through the other, and I'm just like, this is complete crap. It's complete trash. It's a complete character assassination of David Koresh. It's a complete, this one person caused all of this suffering and pain. That's not the truth. There are other people that were involved that are equally
culpable.
Listen, I knew David for 2 years, and he wasn't as bad as they made him out to be. But then again, when I knew him, I didn't have all the information that I have now. So it's complicated. It's things about him I'm very disappointed with. And that hurt me very deeply that he did to other people. But how he treated, if I'm going by how he treated me, he just wasn't that horrible, terrible person everyone made it out to be. And he had an incredible amount of wisdom, and he was, I've never known anyone, and this is the truth, I've never known anyone that cared about God more than David Koresh. His whole life was about the scripture. His whole life was about the Father. What can I do to please the Father? What does the Father want of me? And then whether he got visions or not, who knows? Yeah. I know he wasn't smoking anything. He claims he had visions and that the voice told him to do these things. I don't know, man. All I know is that he could back up what he was saying from the scripture. Some studies that would go on 10, 12 hours that were just so incredibly deep. It's mind-blowing. Anyone who was there that witnesses and went through it, like you talk, okay, they've done documentaries with survivors, and many of the survivors wish they died back on April 19th, 1993. Yeah. I know Graham Craddock feels that way. There are certain other survivors that I don't feel that way. But other survivors to this day wish that they would have died with the group and believe in it that much. Even Kathy Schroeder, who turned state's evidence and then said some of the craziest crap I've ever heard. I don't know where from with some of the stuff she had said. But even she still believes in the message, okay? And that's how powerful it is. That's how powerful it was for people. I'm so curious, and I read and study so much about different religions and God and whatever. It's that hunt for the Holy Grail. It's not about finding the Grail. It's about the journey. So I've never gone off the journey, which is why I'm a person of faith. and not at the same time. And it's a weird thing, man. It's it's what's the word, when you're bipolar. I'm not bipolar, but sometimes I think faith-wise I'm bipolar. It's like, this can't be true. It can't be not true. It can't be true. It can't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if I didn't have that experience, I would probably be an atheist today.
Wow.
With just the understanding I have of religions. Okay. And with things that are wrong, contradictions, things like that. But the experience that I did, that's impossible for me. It's impossible for me to be an atheist. Impossible. Like, not going to happen. That's a weird thing, man.
It is. That's a powerful thing, David, because so many people would look at something deeply traumatic like that and say, well, that's the perfect reason to be an atheist. But there's that thing about there are no atheists in foxholes, and who you are is revealed in those crucibles internally. And I just it's a choice, man. It's that line, I believe, oh, help thou my unbelief. For me at least. I don't know if it is for you, but for me, you kind of have to like wake up every day and make this conscious choice of like, I don't care if I'm unhappy about it. I'm going to force it. I'm going to choose to believe, because it's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to like put myself there in that experience as best as I can wrap my head around. And it makes sense to me that you're not an atheist. There's no way you could be an atheist going through that. I can see how going through that would not make someone question their belief in God so much as like someone being on the inside, so much as question your belief in the government that wants to be your God.
Yeah.
And force its will on you.
Oh, yeah.
And when you see the other people's faith living it out,
and dying for it,
and being willing to die for it.
Yeah.
It's not God that I could see myself losing my faith in. It's what wants to be my God and is not.
That's really well said. But there's, it's the thing with the country too. I was raised reading about the Revolutionary War.
Sure.
Pictured myself being at Valley Forge, took us off with the, the freedom fighters, if you will, the revolutionaries, and all that. And then you're reading the scripture, and you can picture yourself being there with Jesus, right? And you're like, would I have been the doubting Thomas? Yeah, I probably would. But you say the Pledge of Allegiance every day when you were in school. When I was young, you're instilled with this sense of pride. And then I had an uncle that was in Vietnam, and I spent a lot of time thinking those who have fought wars and sacrificed their lives or their arms, their legs, their sanity for us to be here today. And I could never go against that or hate that. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's just unbelievable. Even if you're serving the beast, and I hate to say it like that because I believe in this country, I love this country. I think that we're not correctly spiritually motivated anymore. Where maybe in the 50s we were, and not the government, they still lied to us, but at least we knew why we fought World War II. Nobody understood why we fought Vietnam. And we shouldn't have been there, frankly. And the soldiers shouldn't have come back and been called baby killers and been spit on.
Mm-mm.
So it's hard to speak against the country. I think about those people that make that sacrifice. And I know that many of the ATF agents and many of the FBI agents signed up to do the right thing. They wanted to serve their country in the capacity they could, being an ATF or an FBI guy. And I think about those people. I don't hate the FBI. I don't hate the ATF. I hate those people that were in charge that got away scot-free. Well, no one got away scot-free. There's high alcoholism. There's people that are living with the demons of Waco. They just don't talk about it. But one of my filmmaker friends that has talked to some of the ATF guys, that no one's gotten off scot-free, and good. You shouldn't, really. I mean,
Yeah.
we all have to live with the past, right? I do. Why shouldn't they?
Yeah.
But I think about them. I think about the country. I think about the sacrifices that my uncle and I. We were watching when I first came back from Waco. The Justice Department did a thing. They were waiting for the coroner's report to come out, and they did a press conference, and they said, coroner's report will show that some of the kids were beaten and stabbed to death in the last seconds of their lives. And I went apeshit. I had talked to Rodney Crowe, who was the person that was responsible for the autopsy reports, and he said, we found that some of the kids died of blunt force trauma when the concrete fell in on them. Right? One of the kids had stab wounds. Nobody knows why the hell that was, right? But what the coroner called blunt force trauma, the government called beatings and stabbings. And I had just had this conversation with him, and I was awaiting his report. And then there they are switching around and make us look like the most evil they could, saying we beat our kids to death in the final moments of the conflagration. And I'm yelling and screaming at the TV. I'm so mad. It was my uncle's TV. I would have thrown something at it if it were my TV, but it wasn't. And it's something I'll never forget. He started screaming louder than me. And he said, just like them, they fucking lied to us. They did that. And I'm like, holy crap. He scared me into shutting up because his reaction was so passionate and violent. And he was so angry. He shared that anger from the lies he experienced as a Vietnam veteran. God, that was a powerful moment in my life. Yeah. And really bonded me with my uncle too. But he got it. He understood deeply why I was so angry, and he knew they were lying. And so you can still love it and respect those that serve it and still question it. You have to question it. You absolutely have to question it. And you can't believe them. So, no, the soldiers aren't bad, but sometimes those that are running the team are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to make the soldiers look bad, right?
Yeah.
It's a complicated thing. Mankind is complicated. Humans are complicated. Something like Waco is extremely complicated. All you can do, again, I have empathy for the agents. I know many of them were wounded and have those scars to this day. I'm sure many of them don't sleep well. I heard a story of one ATF agent that went to his boss's office, said, boss, I bet you never seen this, and blew his head off right in front of his boss.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was right after Waco happened. So, what's the message? Stop doing that shit to people, man.
Yeah.
The people in government, people that are running the show. Stop doing it. Stop doing it to your own people. And then you throw your own people under the bus. How are you going to be respected? They threw Robert Rodriguez under the bus and said, he didn't tell us that the element of surprise was lost. And Robert's like, yeah, I did. I'm on the phone. I'm like telling you to cancel the raid.
Mm-hmm.
They denied that in court. They made him look like it was his fault. They made him the scapegoat. He, by the way, sued them for millions of dollars later and won. So these are the people we're talking about, though. You're just fodder to them. They don't care about. They don't care about their own people. How are they going to care about you, the citizens?
Yeah, we did this 80s podcast not too long ago called Dancing with Ourselves, and it was a good
podcast. It's a good podcast.
You should call me for that one.
I'll get you set up. Like, they would probably love to have you on. They're awesome guys. But the question, we were on there a couple times. I think the second time we were discussing, like, are you more patriotic now or when you were a kid back in the 80s? And it was a cute, fun little conversation. We got a little dangerous, but not too dangerous. But I just got reminded of our conversation when you were talking about how you can love your country but question your government. And it's almost like we love what America is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we hate what it's become.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way,
Shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't, and
It's like loving the sinner and hating the sin.
yeah.
I love the country, but
Yeah.
I hate what it's doing.
Yeah.
But people, and you're so right, David, that people are so complex. Our last guest that we had, the one we had mentioned before, he likes to talk a lot about identity as it's framed, especially in like Jesus's ministry. And one thing that we talk a lot about is that like Jesus maybe was getting you to really question your set identities that you have. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a white guy, I'm this, I'm that, I'm an American, I'm whatever. And I was reminded of that when you earlier were talking about the little girl who grew up in the Branch Davidian compound and then went to public school, and all of a sudden was introduced to this entirely different matrix of identity that is like forced upon her. And it almost seems like the Branch Davidians kind of understood this absence of identity thing beyond just being a child of God and serving the kingdom of heaven. And they didn't seem to have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't seem to have that like series of identities that we all put on each other in the real world when we're trying to segregate and be tribal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even back then. And it's that Lord of the Flies thing almost. You find your leader, you find your. It's a weird thing. I've never liked bullies, but I hate bullies actually. But in retrospect, when I think about where we're at now with the zero tolerance policy in school, I thought that was a good thing. But then again, I am a comedian file. I'm listening to Chris Rock talk about him taking his kids into school and then them saying, well, we have a zero tolerance for bullies here. And he's like, then my kids aren't going to the school. How are they going to learn about life? How are they going to learn about dealing socially with bullies when they go in the real world and everyone's a shark?
Yes.
How are they going to be able to swim with the sharks if they haven't had the bully experience in school? And the more I think about that, the more that makes sense. We're
soft, David.
We're pussifying our entire country. A level, and I know that's not a politically correct term.
That's okay. We're not exactly politically correct.
Don't cancel me. I'm already canceled. I don't give a shit. Seriously, it's like you gotta have a balance, man. And I hated bully. I got picked. I was always a fat kid guy picked on, but guess what? I went after my bully.
Yeah.
I tackled in the face, but guess what? I didn't get kicked in the face after.
Right.
Never again after tackling the prick. And you have to face it. I was a kid. I was a, light flood, like the Pillsbury Doughboy. What are you going to do? You have to stand up for yourself. And the world is, it's horrendous, dude. It's a terrible place. You need everything you can get. You need to use your wits. You have to have experience. I feel sorry for people that are overprotected from the world because it's less like, you better hope your parents never die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm a homeschool dad. We homeschool our kids, and we do it. What's that?
So you're the bully.
I get to be the bully. And I know how to do it. I'm real good.
All his Machiavellian schemes.
Yeah, but there's a huge element of truth to what you're saying though. They need to be ready.
Yeah.
They need to be ready. I have to make sure that they're ready. I can't just shelter them and keep them from everything. I have to give them experiences. I have to make sure they understand what's going to be coming at them. Yeah. I'm in control of what they get exposed to. I control those influences. What they're ready for now and what they will be ready for maybe in a couple of years, what they were ready for a couple of years ago. It's my job to identify those things and expose my kids to those things at the right time. So I can form their perspective of the world and how they're supposed to respond to those things happening at appropriate ages. But it's not a situation where I don't ever expose my kids to anything whatsoever, and then they're set up for failure. But I'm not going to be the heel and just sit my kid down and say, hey, and this is what a rated X movie looks like. This is what ultraviolence looks like.
They're supposed to find that out for themselves, and then you're supposed to not be happy about it. And then, there's certain unwritten rules You know, it's
So
like
true.
my dad knew that I knew where his porn mags were hidden. We didn't talk about it, and he certainly. I would have been horrified had he showed me.
Yeah, that would have been
To
weird.
discover that for yourself, and then you don't talk about it, and then
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know, another big one was when I was in high school. Everybody told me, because I was bullied when I was in high school, and everybody was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, Jonathan. Don't worry about. Just let it go. Forgive him. Turn the other cheek. Don't fight him back," which is totally wrong. But then they did one worse, which is, don't worry about figuring out how to solve that problem, because you're going to graduate high school and never see these people again, and everybody's going to grow up, and no one's going to act like that out in the real world. That is so not true.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there are people in their 60s who didn't develop past 16.
Yeah.
You know, and those people can be your boss.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, dude, you gotta teach people.
When I meet someone like that now, I say, "What happened to you?"
Right? Yeah.
They're like, "What? What
Yeah.
happened to you? Was it your
What happened?
dad? Was it your mom?
Uh-huh.
What was it that happened to you that made you like this?"
Yeah.
And then all you change, man. Eyes get start to think about it. Their eyes glaze over a little. It's a really weird reaction. But
That's
it's
awesome.
interesting when you again put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to figure that out. You know, that's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
We're creeping up on time, I know, because we usually have to try and wrap up by like 5:30 our time.
Yep.
But I wanted to ask you, well, first, do you have any?
No, let's do this as the last question.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to ask you a fun one, man. Tell us about some of your favorite stand-up comedians.
They're dark.
Yeah, dude.
Anthony Jeselnik, I think, is one of the most brilliant guys.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Fantastic writer.
He's a genius. He's a genius. He's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I like Kyle Kinane a lot. Kyle Kinane is funny. He's not dirty. His stories are fantastic.
Good.
You'll love him. He's great.
Okay.
Ron Fuches, I think I say his name wrong. He's really good. He's one of the better guys that's out there. Favorites of all time, David Tell. David Tell is a comedian's comedian.
Yeah.
You know, most people, and if you listen to Rogan, someone was telling the story, it's like, I had to stop. I had to rewrite my act because I started to sound like David Attell. And apparently so many comedians go through that. They kind of let's talk about it. Sex, let's talk about it. There's like a whole thing that he does, but genius. You know?
Did you ever watch his show Insomniac?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Insomniac was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the stand-up special he has from the 80s is still arms down. One of the funniest things I've ever heard. I listen to that all the time. And Jeffrey Ross has done quite well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's
Roastmaster General, baby.
He's becoming more impressive to me as the years go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, Pryor, all the greats. Oh my God. The one and only. Why can't I think of his name? He had a whole station there for George Carlin.
Oh, George Carlin, yeah.
The thing he did later in life where he's on the stage that was like a graveyard and he's talking about government and he's talking about these businessmen that have their big cigar dicks in their mouth. And how the government screws you. You're to the party. You're not one of them. They're going to take your pension. They're going to get this and they're going to get it all. And they're not going to care. And you're going to give it. I mean, it's one of the most brilliant political dissertations ever done. Yeah. It's exactly how our country is and how the business aspects of it are destroying the people in this country. To this day, there's nothing. I don't think anything has ever been done that encapsulates what capitalism is, what the corporations ruling us are. It's perfect. Yeah. It's genius, man, genius.
Yeah. Dude, we need to do like a whole other episode where we just talk about stand-up comedians. I have so many that we could like
do good.
There's so many great minds out there, man.
Yeah, Doug Stanhope, Patrice O'Neill.
Patrice O'Neill.
Man.
I love him so much that I've been listening to the radio show and the Andy
Opie and Anthony. Yeah.
Oh, God. because I can't get enough Patrice. What a genius!
Yeah.
I might
Agreed.
actually, like, when we're done, I'm gonna send you a screenshot of my YouTube history just to
Okay.
prove to you that, like, I really am, like, always watching. Yeah, dude, those old O&A episodes are so. I mean, a gift. They were Patrice was such a gift.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you
you know,
got
the most imitated,
imitated.
Intimidating of them all.
Oh,
Like, if I knew Patrice and I was in that clique, I never would have gotten on stage if he was in the place. I wouldn't have done it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With
no.
him in the audience, you're not safe. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way you're safe. You're dead, baby. You
Yeah.
know him, Cat
He would
Williams,
have been the one telling all the Waco jokes right in front of me. I've been like, kill me, dude.
and laughing the whole time. You
Yeah.
know, and getting
My
everybody else.
uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Oh, just lapping up your flop sweat, you know. Dude. Okay. Now I have my excuse to get you back is
Cool.
to talk about stand-up.
That's just
comedy.
fun, guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Dude.
This has been a blast.
I'll be honest with you, David. We really honor and respect you. But I
Okay,
really
you have my Venmo number then.
yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah. $2 on
Yes.
the way. And but really we enjoy really just talking to you. Like I told you over the phone, you kind of remind me of our eldest brother, BJ,
Yes.
who's the same age. And
You must be a cool guy.
yeah,
He's very well.
he's all right.
Apparently, he is.
You know, that's exactly what BJ would say. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I really do. I'd say one of the most powerful things you said to me is, you know, you have empathy for the guys who were, you know, on the ground doing all this stuff. And the thought that come to my head, man, was just blessed are the peacemakers, you know, for they will inherit the kingdom of God. And I mean, that's maybe one of the most godly things I've ever heard anybody say, is to be able to forgive the people who did that. I think you're a strong guy, David. I really do, man.
You know, one of the hardest things I did when Janet Reno died.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I forgave Janet Reno. She was lied to. She was deceived. She made the ultimate decision.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the people that I hated for many, many years.
Sure.
And maybe wouldn't forgive for many, many years. But at the end of the day, I had to say, do I want this person to not receive eternity because she made a wrong call and got a lot of people killed? No. Yeah. I had to figure it. I did. I forgave her. And I did it on Facebook. So I did it publicly. And many people were not happy.
I bet.
That day I was getting a lot of, I hope she's in hell and all that. And I'm like, no, that's not the point, man.
Yeah.
You don't know her. You don't know why she made that decision. What didn't she know? How was she pressured?
Yeah.
It's not for me to judge her. It's for me to forgive her.
Yep.
That's beautiful, man.
Yep.
Before we let you go, this is something I do with our guests whenever I can remember. Our motto on the Goslings is take up the broken sword and strike down the darkness. Any words of wisdom that you might have for our audience members so that they too can go forth and strike down the darkness in their lives?
Love your opponent.
Love your opponent. Man.
Good
Promise
word.
us.
Good
I'm
word.
not going to cry. I promise.
Try to know why they're your opponent and try to reason with them. Try to make them your friend. That's hard. It's easy to shoot someone. It's harder to say someone that you hate and make them your friend. God, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
David, where can people find you if they want to support you? Website is wacosurvivors.com, and there's books on there. I have to order some, so getting them out to you. But I still have some of the DVDs, the Rules of Engagement, Waco, A New Revelation, which is one of the sequels to Rules of Engagement. So again, there are a lot of free material, man. Oh, I wanted to mention this earlier. I'm surprised we didn't talk about this, but many of the scholars are just brilliant that I've been dealing with. I have all of Stuart Wright's writings about Waco on the site under it's under literature. You should definitely read his stuff, man. He did a thoughtful analysis on the government actions at Waco, and he asked, how come the FBI didn't have a manual that they could follow to make sure that people came out, that all the kids came out. And he did some research, and it turns out they did have a manual. Had several aspects of what you do in a situation like this if you want people to come out of a building. And it was something like they have violated, I think I'm going to be conservative. They violated 11 of their own principles. So it looks like they took their rule book and did the exact opposite of what the rule book said. On many occasions. That's one of the reasons people have come out. If you are doing the opposite of what you know is going to work, then you don't want people to survive. You didn't want people to come out.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, good. So people can go to wacosurvivors.com.
Yeah. And there's you can also email me too from there.
Listen, next time you come close to Middle Tennessee or Nashville, man, I will be highly offended and severely hurt if you don't let me take you out to lunch or dinner or something, or take you to Zany's, our comedy.
Oh yeah, take you to Zany's.
I can do that for sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
dude.
One of my old singers lives in Nashville now, so that could happen.
Dude, absolutely.
Stay in touch. Let us know.
I'm in, baby.
Hey guys, great. Thank you.
Right, thank you, David. God bless you, buddy. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you all for being here.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying this interview and you'd like to hear the rest of it, including some really down and dirty stuff that we're not allowed to say here on YouTube, head over to patreon.com/the Goslings. We'd love to have your support there and share exclusive content with you.
That's right. Keep it cool. And remember, these are interviews that strike down the dark.
They do indeed strike down the darkness. They strike down all the darkness.
That's right. Strike it down hard.
So hard.
So hard.
So, David Thibodeau, guys, what do y'all think? For real. Wasn't it great? Yeah, Lisa says, love this. Here, let me chat up. So good. Jerry says, so good.
Jerry says, Jonathan's asking him on a date. Seeds of romance blossoming in the savannah. I'm not opposed to bro dates. I'll just tell you right now.
Hey, no, but no homo. Bromo.
Yeah,
It's bromo.
Yeah.
Brother love.
Yeah, brother love. Yeah. Hashtag no bromo. All right.
Man.
We're running late, so we are going to probably have to burn through a lot of things real quick.
First, let me give a shout out to D for the super chat earlier. I said I was going to give you a shout out. We really do appreciate your support. So D, thank you. Thanks for hanging in there with us tonight, for joining, and for the support. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It means a lot to us.
Yeah.
It really helps the channel grow. So let's see. Sound of Freedom or books?
Let's do books. Let's do books real quick.
All right, we'll burn through books. I'm gonna burn through all our afterburner obligatories here.
Right.
Right.
We gotta discharge the last little bit of cargo
before
the ship
pop
sinks.
smoke.
Right.
Pop smoke.
Let's start with yours.
Guns.
Here we go.
Heaven in the Realms, Empyrean Falling by Jonathan Goss. It's on the screen. $17.99 for the first book. It's a 7-novel series about angelic warfare. Go out and buy it. Micro Machines. Cool.
Can you explain a little bit? A little more. Keep it up there.
So it's a 7-novel series about the wars between the angels. It's available on Amazon. The QR code is on your screen right now. Christian fiction, kind of Revelations meets 300 meets Gettysburg, Civil War, Brothers, Archangel Michael, Lucifer, Gabriel, plus a whole host of other characters that I had to create. Lots of battles, lots of theological drama, stuff like that. You don't have to read the first book in order to read other books in the series, but the first book is definitely a good place to start. I am actually going to read you the book blurb from the 6th novel in the series called, what's it called? Primus Illuminati. Yeah, I literally had a brain fart.
Nice.
Okay, here we go. It's been 12 years since Ulrich Savad's salvation and induction as Primus Illuminati. Since then, he has learned to quell his fury and channel his zeal into a crusade of redemption. Under his new aegis, 49,000 halos wage a war of mercy, where faith in Parakletos trumps the hope of victory. Yet under the firmament dwells a new threat, darker than any sky of angels and vaster than any sea of demons. Inside Tartarus, a constellation is liberated and on the ice waste reinstated to help lead an elite legion of 60,000 fallen poised to wreak revolt's havoc. Meanwhile, in the bowels of Pandemonium, Satan devises his final conspiracy, a ruse that promises to shatter Zion's undefeatable confidence and unleash dire wrath eternal. Only the expertise of one brotherly pair will suffice to bring his endgame to fruition, and they are more than willing to appease a god and satiate their lusts in the guise of looming defeat. With aid from above and below, the Fallen's gambit enlists traitors and convicts, gods and demons, redeemers and apostates, and villains revived from the fire and ice of damnation. If executed flawlessly, it will ensure all-encompassing disaster for everything the faithful have strived to protect, and neither heaven nor earth will be immune to hell's maelstrom onslaught. What seems a dragon's sulphurous death rattle could prove a halo's blinkered vanish. 2 fallen will elect their fates. 1 faithful must commit to mercy or holocaust. And in this tribulation of these end times, all creation will suffer. Primus Illuminati is the penultimate chapter of the Heavenly Realms series, the Second War's climax, which reveals that faith through hope leads to damnation, but hope through faith leads to redemption.
Nice.
Check it out. And also be sure to check out the audiobooks by Adam Burrell. I cannot stress this enough. The audiobooks by Adam Burrell are amazing. He does an excellent job. It's the best ever you could ask for. It's the best audiobook ever. He sounds just like Snape from Harry Potter. He's great.
He's the best.
He's
baby.
the best.
Other narrators, not so great.
Yeah.
Not that great.
He's a lot of narrators not so great. Adam Burrell, the greatest of the narrators you could ever ask for. He's perfect. We've got him on board for all the books. It's the greatest ever. Check it out. There you go.
There you go. Henry Half Moon, full-time college student, part-time demon hunter. An uninspired college student, Henry is being followed by something unseen, a malevolent force that knows who he truly is. With the help of his favorite college professor and the help of his best friend and an angel of death, Henry peeks behind the veil and sees the world as it really is, a feeding ground for demonic entities, preparing the way for an ancient prophesied evil, tying together elements from Christianity, Greek mythology, the occult, and humor. Henry Half Moon is a wild ride that will satisfy all readers. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's only $9.
Yeah, it's way cheaper than mine. Yeah. By the way, our niece down in Georgia, she, I think, was so inspired, Reagan, one of Nathan's kids.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's been so inspired by your Travelers League series that she is now writing her own fantasy series.
Sweet.
She's got over 200 pages.
Oh, man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with her and her older sister, Bailey, and Bailey writes a bunch of stuff, too.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I think...
It's in the blood, man.
Yeah, it's in the blood, and I think Nick's books have had a hand in, like, maybe sparking that a little bit. We got to mail them a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
we got to mail them more books.
Yeah, let's do
So,
it. Fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's see. Let me check that. Check that off the list. Books, check. Patreon. Yeah, let's do Patreon real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Look, again, we have half an hour, maybe a little more than that, of exclusive content with David Thibodeau and all of our guests on our Patreon. Go over, check it out. Multiple levels. We'd love your support there. You get a lot of stuff in return for signing up to be a patron.
Yeah.
It's not just your generosity.
Yeah.
We want to actually reciprocate with some added value for different levels of support. So really love it if you go over there, check it out.
Yeah.
And we will add your name to our list of patrons, which we're going to go over here in just a second. But first, do you want to talk about Sound of Freedom? Gabe actually mentioned, he made a comment that maybe we should wait and do like a full review video.
I think so. That's a solid move. I don't know when we'd be able to do it because like we're booked out for both days, Thursdays, our Church of What's Cool episodes on Thursdays and our Sunday episodes for the rest of the month, I think. But maybe towards the end of the month. I will say this, strike while the iron's hot. Go see the movie right now.
Let's talk about it for the after party.
Yeah, we can talk about it for the after party.
It can be the theme of the after party.
It can be the theme of the after party. Yeah. But in the meantime, we highly encourage everybody to go see The Sound of Freedom. It's a powerful movie, and it's worth your support. made by Angel Studios. It's obviously making the rounds right now, and they're trying to sell 2 million tickets for the 2 million children that are trafficked, but like every year.
Yeah. Kira asked what it's about. It's the story of Tim Ballard. It's a true story. Tim Ballard worked for Homeland Security, and he was tasked with catching pedophiles here in the U.S. And a lot of children are trafficked into the U.S., but there's also a huge child porn market, and he was tasked with going out and finding those pedophiles and prosecuting them.
Yeah.
The story itself, the movie itself, is about how he successfully rescues a young boy being trafficked across the border.
Yeah.
But the young boy has a sister.
Yeah.
That was also kidnapped and trafficked, but she wasn't sent to the U.S. So Tim Ballard has to make the decision to go and find and rescue this girl along with a bunch of other kids.
Yeah.
Powerful story, true story. Tim Ballard is played by Jim Caviezel, and
Jim Jesus Caviezel.
Jim Jesus Caviezel, an amazing actor. And I would also, you can watch this for free right now on YouTube. One of Jordan Peterson's most recent interviews. He interviews both the real Tim Ballard, and Jim Caviezel. Most of the interview is with Tim Ballard himself. Go and watch that interview. Came out maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Steve Bannon interviewed Jim Caviezel as well. And then Sean Ryan on Vigilance Elite, he interviewed Jim Caviezel as well. And that is done right up the road from us in Leaper's Fork.
Yep.
So, yeah, dude, it's
powerful.
It's awesome.
It's powerful.
It really is powerful. It deserves your support, and it's selling like gangbusters. So you might actually have a hard time getting tickets for it.
I checked day before yesterday. Friday, just to see box office standings. It was number 2.
Yeah,
in the box office behind Indiana Jones.
And it's only probably number 2 because it didn't get into as many theaters.
That's exactly right.
As Indiana Jones.
It's number 2, and it's probably not in half the theaters that Indiana Jones is in.
Yeah, it is. They know better. It's not some big revelatory movie for those of us who are in the know. It lightly touches on the things, but for all the uninformed, uninitiated normies out there, like, it's a good primer to open their eyes a little bit to some things that a lot of people have been talking about for the past decade. And we're going to talk more about that at the Illuminati after party.
Absolutely. I think that's what we should do. I really do.
Awesome. And Gabe had to jet. Gabe Bello. Love you, buddy. See ya. Gabriel Bello Music. He was in the chat. Go check out Gabriel Bello Music's YouTube channel. He's a dear friend of the channel. And Jay Reese Bradley. JRB Live is her YouTube channel. Check her out as well. She's also a really good friend of ours. And she interviews people as well. Gabe interviews people. They're both friends of ours that we really want to support.
Yeah, Jay Reese interviews non-woke authors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's her mission, and it's awesome. And I join her in that mission.
Yeah,
great interviews, great people, interesting books, great writers.
Yeah,
go and check it out. Good conversations there. She actually said she talked about our books on our last interview.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you can check it out.
I obviously did not watch it.
Well, it was Thursday.
Oh, that's right. We were doing the church.
Cool. Well, this past Thursday, it was anniversary.
Oh, well, I don't have an excuse.
Yeah, we were watching Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
But,
beat that, Jay.
Yeah, but no,
beat that baby sister.
I will be watching it. I will be watching it, and I really appreciate that. Okay, well, I think that's it, guys. We got to jet real quick. Yeah. We're going to go through a patron shout out. I'm going to start.
List.
I have a pretty long list, guys. But you know what? My Stream Deck isn't working, so I can't play any music. So I think, like last time, I'm going to employ my brother to provide a little background music for me. Uh-oh. What's this? What do we got going on here?
Future show, Brad, I got to wear shades, baby.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Hit it. Starting with our patron, Spartan level patron, Gosshog Lifts. Go to @GossHogLifts on Instagram for fitness content that inspires young men to reclaim their identity and their purpose in a generation of darkness. Go to @GossHogLifts. Check them out. Pressfield level patrons. Lisa S. I believe she was in the chat tonight. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Joanna B. Love you guys. Thank you for your generous support. Oh.
Highway to
should have said Hemingway.
Hemingway.
Yeah, there we go. Hemingway level.
Danger zone.
Hemingway level patrons. Backbone of the Goslings. Zach, Terry, Margaret, Greg, Patricia, Tim, Jody, and American Cars, who's on tonight. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. And Orwell level patrons. The Foundation. Stephanie, Lady Tans, Tammy Earl, Deborah Carmen, Jason, Lisa Tracy, Debbie in Italy, Flossie, Amanda, Bridget, Lisa Jake, Jennifer, Judith, Jared, Julie, TBSL, Will, Darlene, Patrick, Katie. We got Timothy 21, Callie, Keena, Karen, Rita, Mark, Joshua, Courtney, Bob, Julie, Ruta Lee, Susanna, Bay, Joshua B, Linka B, Lanya, Melissa, Vicky, Kelly, and Marcia. And finally, the Orig, Jabber, Charmaine, Jerry, Marcia, Cheryl, Chris Caps. What's up, brother Chris? In the chat tonight. Thank you so much. Karen B, K9 Training, Mama Shaw C, Cascadian Breeze, Gay Bella Music, who's in the chat, Mike Fisher, who's in the chat, Carol, Jamie, Sean, Sunny, Michelle, Charlotte, and we have to give a special shout out to our first patron ever, Jay Reese Bradley, who's in the chat tonight as well. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Highway to the Gosling Zone. I'm gonna take it right
Fearless.
to
Fearless.
the Gosling Zone.
Breaking all the YouTube rules tonight. Jets.
Flares.
Golf clap. Well done. Thank you for that. Anything else?
I really should just like turn to the side like this. Just pretend I'm in a cockpit and just go.
That was such an intense salute. I swear I saw a canopy over you where you were doing it.
You know what it reminds me of? It's we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Because today we celebrate our Independence Day. Dun, 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 dun. And there's that one dude who was just like so into it, you know?
They're cracking beers and getting behind, getting in a cockpit.
I picked a hell of a day to stop drinking.
So good.
Thanks, President Lone Star. All right, everybody. We're going to be way late for sushi, but we've had a great time with you guys. The chat has been awesome. Thank you for all the super chats and super thanks, the generous support from you guys. We got a QR scan code, so thank you for that as well. And we just really appreciate you guys being here and listening to David Thibodeau. He's a great man, and we really enjoyed talking to him. And let's see, this Thursday.
Yeah.
This Thursday, I think we are doing a live interview with Rudy Landa.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And then on Sunday,
you were singing too hard.
I know I was. I got a frog in my throat. Yep.
And then Sunday, we're going to be airing our interview with Dan Scott.
That's right.
Author of Faith in the Age of AI, and recording an interview for the following week with Brian Godawa.
Yeah, dude, we're
talking about eschatology.
Ooh, hot take. Eschatological hot take.
Very hot take.
We like we like Brian Godawa a lot. He's a lot of fun to talk to. We've interviewed him before, so we're gonna have him back to talk about eschatology. And apparently, he has a really controversial opinion that we can't wait to dive into. He did not tell us, so we are like kind of going into it blind.
I think I'm gonna push back a little bit.
Are you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I bet you it'll make Angela happy.
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Yeah, Jerry, so you got to watch that interview.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little preterist. So.
You think so? I bet he is.
I bet he is, because that's about the only hot take that there is, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
it'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
In the meantime, pop and smoke. All right, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Nick.
And we are the Goslings. Go forth.
And strike down the darkness.
A vertical punch.